sure if you were just going to go with.
Welcome. Good evening. I call to order the regular meeting of Grover Beach City Council, Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. This meeting may also be viewed on cable channel 20 in Grover Beach and is available on live streaming on www.slow-span.org. Members of the public may provide public comment during the meeting by attending the meeting or calling 805-321-6639. The phone line is open now. Okay, so tonight our flag salute will be presented by Alani Leon, and you can come on up here really quick. Alani is 10 years old and in the 4th grade at Fairgrove Elementary School. Alani loves math in school and likes that she has a lot of friends. She enjoys living on the Central Coast because there is a bunch of stores nearby. Alani would like to be a pediatrician or a veterinarian. Outside of school, her hobbies include hanging out with her friends and family. She also enjoys shopping, reading, and playing soccer. I love reading too. Alani is accompanied by her grandmother, Debbie. So if you can please join me in the flag salute, and we'll pass it over to Alani. All right, thank you. Now we will do the roll call. City Clerk Sims, please.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll.
Here.
Councilmember Tuggle.
Here.
Councilmember Wyrick.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert.
Here.
Mayor D.
Here. Now move on to closed session announcements. City Attorney Thompson, please.
Yes, on January 26, 2026, the City Council met in closed session to discuss, to have a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, the case being Friends of Oceano Dunes et al. Versus the California Coastal Commission. The council reconvened into open session and reported that there was no reportable action.
All right, thank you. Now on to the agenda review. Council members, do any of you have any questions or changes that you would like to make? If not, can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, we have consensus. Now on to the ceremonial calendar. The first item, or the only item for the ceremonial calendar, we have the proclamation for Black History Month, and I asked Councilmember Tuggle to present this for us tonight.
First, I just wanted to say thanks for allowing me to participate in this. It's a special holiday for me and my family and I, as my dad was really involved in the civil rights movement and is part of the Black history story. So thank you. Proclamation of the Grover Beach City Council recognizing February 2026 as Black History Month. Whereas the City of Grover Beach values the diversity and contributions of Black residents and acknowledges the importance of honoring the rich culture, traditions, and history of Black Americans. And whereas Black History Month is an annual celebration of achievements by African Americans and a time for recognizing their central role in U.S. history. And whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Negro History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And whereas the observance of Black History Month was established to remember and reflect upon the significant contributions of Black individuals, leaders, and communities throughout American history, including the arts, sciences, education, business, politics, and social justice. And whereas during Black History Month, the city encourages residents, businesses, and organizations to recognize, honor, and participate in activities that celebrate Black heritage and promote unity, equity, and inclusion. And whereas the City of Grover Beach is committed to creating a welcoming and inclusive community, free of discrimination and hate, and recognizing the ongoing work required to achieve racial equity and social justice. And now therefore be it resolved that the Grover Beach City Council does hereby officially recognize February 2026 as Black History Month and encourages all residents to join us in honoring the legacy, achievements, and contributions of Black Americans to our city, state, and nation. In witness thereof, I have hereunto signed and sealed Mayor Cassie D.
Thank you. And unfortunately, Mr. Barry Stokes, the president of the NAACP SLO County, could not be here, but he did write a statement that I will read. This year commemorates the centennial of recognizing the accomplishments of African Americans. Black history forms an integral part of American history. A comprehensive understanding of Black history deepens our collective awareness of the nation's shared heritage. Confronting our complete historical narrative fosters unity. Disregarding it can create division. The NAACP is dedicated to safeguarding progress in civil rights, education, and the preservation of historical accuracy. We acknowledge this recognition and underscore the significance of honoring Black leadership, achievement, and history, especially amid efforts to minimize or reinterpret these contributions. As a community, we must approach our history with honesty and courage. The NAACP calls upon all members of the community to join us in upholding history, dignity, and truth. It is with much appreciation that I accept this proclamation on behalf of the NAACP San Luis Obispo County Branch. Thank you. Barry Stokes, President of NAACP SLO County. And we'll make sure that Mr. Stokes gets this proclamation. So, all right, thank you so much for reading that as well, Councilmember Tuggle. Okay, now we will move on to our presentation. We have the 2025 Employee of the Year and 30-Year Service Award recipient presented by City Manager Bronson. And unfortunately, the 30-Year Service Award recipient cannot be here tonight due to family obligations, but will be recognized at the next meeting. So take it away, City Manager Bronson.
Thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council members. It's my honor to present our Employee of the Year for 2025. Just some background information first for the Council. This is our most prestigious award that recognizes an employee who has gone above and beyond to provide service to the community over the past year. The recipient models organizational principles, including providing exemplary services, encouraging innovation and constant improvement, and strengthening community connections. Our process is such where employees can submit nominations of employees from across the organization. We received 6 nominations in this year's process from 3 different departments. It was a tremendous list of nominees that really represent the best of our city workforce and the dedication and service that they provide to the community and the caliber of expertise that they demonstrate. After much deliberation, I am very pleased to announce that Community Services Supervisor Larry Kim is our 2025 Employee of the Year. And before I bring up Mr. Kim to say a few words, I like to talk about Mr. Kim a little bit. So Larry has worked tirelessly to improve, expand, and enhance the city's recreation services and special events as part of the Community Services Division. Numerous members of the public have commended him on the professionalism he brings to event planning and for making sure all events run smoothly and are a lot of fun for the community. Larry and his team are really the fun program and helping to make our community lovable and livable. He has taken initiative to add many new city events, including movie nights and game nights, which have increased in popularity over the past year in attendance, along with a tour of Grover Beach Bike Parade that he and the police department co-developed over this past year. Larry has also revamped the city's volunteer corps, allowing for more resources at events with no additional cost to the city, involving groups and individuals in the community. Larry's increased overall sponsorship for city events, including our landmark summer concert series, which allows for additional elements to be added to events without increasing costs for the city. I'll note that last year's concerts were some of the best and highest attended concerts we've ever had in our city. Larry often volunteers to be of further service and really steps up, raises his hand, and says, "How can I help? How can I be of assistance?" and brings a very uplifting, positive attitude in everything he does. He's a lead on our Employee Fund Committee and works with our Principles and Purpose working group to help revamp what ultimately became our drive that the council saw at a previous council meeting. He strives to build partnerships within the city, within the community, and really embodies our purpose of enhancing the lives of those who work, live, and play in Grover Beach. For these reasons and many more, Larry is our 2025 Employee of the Year. We thank him for his exemplary service to Grover Beach, and we're also welcomed by his wife Jeannie and their son Henry, he was here on his birthday today. So we're delighted to welcome the whole Kim family here this evening.
I'll keep this short and sweet. First of all, I'd like to thank city management and the whole team that selected me as Employee of the Year. I thought all the nominees were completely worthy, and I was caught off guard. But I do appreciate what you. I appreciate being appreciated, and I know that like everybody who was nominated, we're just here to do our jobs, and the fact that you acknowledge that we do them well just means a lot to us. I'd also like to thank my son for allowing me to accept this award today on his birthday, and yeah, we will quickly maybe take some photos and take him out to his birthday dinner. So
Very good. Thank
you so much. Yeah.
I know. Let's take some photos. I would like to call up the chair of the Parks, Recreation, and Beautification Commission to come up and say just a couple of words, if you would like. I was told you would like to.
Good evening, Anita Shower, Grover Beach Parks and Recreation Chair, and I have a few words to say about Larry. He's kind, he's motivated, he's dedicated, he's spontaneous. He loves it here, and it was a great find. I don't know who did it, but I want to congratulate you and on behalf of the entire Parks and Recreation Commission. Larry is wonderful to work with, work for, and we look forward to many more years of having him here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Shower. All right, we promise Henry will be quick, so.
Thank you. I love the events. I love your energy. I did feel bad that you threw the party where we celebrated you when they chose you in the end. But so I feel like we owe you a party. But thank you. And just thank you for being a bright light. It makes being in this space and being in this community better.
Ditto all that. And thank you, Larry. You make a big difference to the city, and people really appreciate you and all the efforts you do. So thank you very much. Well deserved.
As a lover of music and a dancer, I just want to throw in yay for summer concerts and what you did to relocate it last summer so we did not lose that opportunity to be out and about all summer long as a community. I really, really appreciate that. And just a big shout out to your family. Thank you for sharing him with us. We're truly grateful and appreciative.
Yes, great job on transitioning the summer concerts to 16th Street Park, and a lot of the neighbors who lived around there too. You did in such a way where they enjoyed it as well, which is always the whole first thing. It's like something new. Are people going to adjust to it? And a lot of them actually just put chairs out and watch it from home too, or just walk across the street. So great job on that too. Yes, it's funny to see someone surprised at getting their award in real time, and appreciate all the efforts you'll continue to do too. And it is always that strange part where it's like, so who's celebrating today? The Employee of the Year or the birthday boy? I mean, hard competition there. Sorry, Larry, I don't think you're going to win that one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Larry. With all of my heart, you do so much for our city to really show the spirit of our city. And we love our summer concerts. We love all the events that you put on. And just thank you for being here for such a short time. You're an incredible part of our team. So thank you so much. All right. You're excused.
Happy birthday.
And happy birthday. Yes. Okay. All right. Now we will move on to public communications. Our meetings are designed to proceed in an organized and efficient manner to effectively conduct city business. The council welcomes and values public comments, which can be shared at the designated time from the podium using the microphone. The council requests that all comments be addressed to the council as a whole and that speakers refrain from directing individual comments at staff members. To maintain an orderly process, we kindly ask all attendees refrain from creating disruptions during the meeting, interrupting speakers who are addressing the council, or impeding on the council's ability to conduct business. This can include talking, whispering, cell phones, clapping, or any other noise that can be distracting anybody in the room. If you need to speak to someone, please step out into the lobby. Should disruptions occur, the council may need to take certain measures such as calling a recess, clearing the chambers, or in rare circumstances, canceling the meeting. We greatly appreciate your understanding and cooperation in maintaining a productive environment that serves our entire community effectively. During this time, the council will allow public communication. Any member of the public may address the council for a period not to exceed 3 minutes total on any item of interest within the jurisdiction of this council. The council will listen to all communications. However, in compliance with the Brown Act, the council cannot act on or discuss items not on the agenda. I will start with my speaker slip. So I have Kelvin Koveduck, followed by Mike Wilson. Okay, if that's what you would like. It's going to go Mike Wilson, then Kelvin Koveduck.
Reverse alphabetical. Well, this is a difference for me. I usually follow everybody else.
That's why you were second.
Thank you. Mike Wilson, good evening. This afternoon, a community-developed ballot initiative was presented to the city. Simply stated, it's attempting to readdress what we all thought existed, and that would be elevations of structures constructed in town. We assumed that things would be at an elevation consistent with what already existed. Simply stated, the ballot initiative simply directs that commercial properties will not exceed 40 feet and industrial 33. In there is also a caveat that essentially is a wink to clarity and recognizes that no modification can be made unless it is done as a vote before the public of Grover Beach. I understand that there may be those who will tell you how this could go wrong. Managers, planners, investors, developers. But I can tell you one way that it will go magnificently well. Simply follow the will of the people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Kelvin Koveduck.
Okay. Good Good evening. I wanted to talk about the Solstice project. There's really two avenues here to discuss. First of all, the petition that Mike was talking about, it will be too late for Front Street, what's left of it. So it needs to be addressed separately from this ballot issue that Mike was talking about. How does one do that? Well, one thing that I hear a lot is that, well, the public streets in the coastal zone are not considered scenic vistas or thoroughfares. So it's within the legal right of the city council to put streets like Brighton, Ramona, Newport, Saratoga, Ocean View. They can, in the coastal zone, can be made to be a visual resource in Vista. And it would have to then be amended. You're allowed 4 amendments to the, I understand. So you can make that an amendment to the local coastal program. And then that can get submitted to the Coastal Commission. And I don't see why they would not approve that. So that's one avenue. But there's also the avenue of when the city meets on March 31st with the Planning Commission, that you also have the right to lower the heights to 33 feet. That seems like a reasonable number. That's what's also in the petition. But that would keep the scale of the buildings all down Front Street, because that project that was completed in 2004 is 33 feet. Mr. Ford occupies that building and owns that land as well. So sometimes I hear that we don't like change, but if you recall, the speed limit was 65, and those of us old enough, when I got my license, it was 55. It went down. People didn't like that. The public didn't like it. I don't think anybody liked it, but it was 55. But it got changed back to 65. I'm using that as an analogy because, we don't like the heights that were determined in 2022 during the height of COVID. So legally, you have a right to do that, and you just have to find another place to find that the housing you're going to lose, another place to do it, like Oak Park or somewhere. Jennifer said that would be an appropriate measure. So that's what I wanted to talk about. And right before I came up, I found out I'm distributing the petition to everybody. I'll give it to the city clerk. It's an initiative to measure, to be submitted directly to the voters. So let the people decide.
Thank you for your comments. All right, we have Lauren Westfall.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. People do not like change. Yes, there is a younger generation coming in, but your average age in Grover Beach is about 40, 45 years old. They're not going to ride a bicycle and they're not going to walk. During the Planning Commission, the city attorney stated, if preserving public views, it is important enough to the community, the council should have the right to place it on the agenda sooner than later. In the last few months, several community members have voiced their concerns of preserving the public views. Council needs to listen and not be like the last council and let our voices fall on deaf ears. There's a couple of you on this council that can look out off their patio and see the construction. I can see the new developments from the corner of my bedroom window. And it is kind of an eyesore because it's all older homes and then new homes. One planning commissioner couldn't even make a decision on the last planning committee, claiming it was above her pay grade. I thought these positions were volunteer and not compensated. If the city plans on initiating their 7th cycle of their housing element this year, which must be completed no later than December 2028, it's time for you guys to get the community input. I also ask you all to watch the YouTube video of the condos that collapsed in Florida last couple of years. As the construction could not carry the load when owners started to remodel and upgrade their units. This is going to happen down here at the Palladium and all these other ones, because affordable by design is not meant to last for more than 10 to 15 years. And when these people start remodeling and putting in tile floors and marble countertops, the construction is not carrying the load, and they're going to collapse. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I do not have any other speaker slips. Does anybody wish to come up and speak during general public comment? Yes, Ms. Peterson?
Honorable Mayor and City Council, I thought it might be helpful if I said something to support Mike and Kelvin, who were up earlier talking about a measure and petitions, and it's all really confusing a lot of times. It takes a long time to figure all this stuff out. So I'd like to give a quick history of the citizen ballot initiatives, and that is California's system of direct democracy. Citizen initiative measures were born over a century ago in 1911 as a reform aimed at curbing the power of special interest groups over city councils. California voters approved an amendment to the state's constitution, giving them the power to propose and enact new laws via initiatives, reject laws passed by the city council via referendums, and remove elected officials from office via recalls. Since then, direct democracy has been a defining feature of California politics. Survey results show that California's registered voters strongly support these provisions that enable them to bypass the City Council, giving them a direct hand in the lawmaking process. And the League of California Cities, who trains so well, says it this way: recognizing that California stands apart from other states by virtue of its direct initiative process, the courts have long held that the initiative and referendum are not rights granted to the people, but powers reserved by them in the Constitution. The courts call the initiative and referendum one of the most precious rights of our democratic process. If we get 1,000 signatures on the measure that was filed today, then the measure will be on the November 2026 ballot, and the voters of Grover Beach can decide. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come up and speak during general public comment? Yes, of course. And then you can go next.
Hello. Hi to all of you again. I'm Joy Brim. I actually am not talking for me. I'm talking for my neighbors. I have 6 that will not come to a meeting, but they're very vocal. And we have a party for the police. I've been in all their house. They're in my house, very close neighbors. We have a party for police the week of Christmas out in the cul-de-sac, and we all put chairs out and have cookies and that kind of thing. That's what kind of neighborhood I live in. And they said, they wanted me to ask you, when did you quit taking care of the people that are already here? Why are you worried so much about the new people? They thought you were representing them and helping them. They don't feel that way. They feel like you just want to change and bring new people in, and to hell with the people that live here. You don't care. And that's how they feel. So, anyway.
Thank you for your comments. Go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Honorable Mayor Dee and City Council members. I'm here in support of the initiative that was presented by Mike. And also, I'm not going to say what's already been said. I do want to refer, there was a comment made about the community survey. And online it says, one of the most encouraging survey findings is that 87% of respondents say they are proud to be Grover Beach residents. It doesn't say why they're proud, but I venture to say, look at the picture. And then look at what's going on down on Front Street and what's being considered in the future. That's the reason. So please consider what's being suggested in the initiative. And this hasn't been the first time that we've all been here. We've been here since October talking about this, as you are aware. And so I just please ask that you take this in consideration in approving this project. You know, we say that it's maybe too late, maybe not. You may have the authority to put an end to that building up on Front Street. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come up? Mr. Myrick, and then Ms. Walter.
I don't have anything on. I don't know why I bring these things.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you for helping me out on the change.
Of course.
On these the new buildings, like the one across the street from 7-Eleven and the one across the street from Mongo's, they have condensation lines dripping on the next guy's deck below them. Now, I'm retired now, but it's always been we run them all the way down to the ground and go into the, where the plants are and stuff because they have they're heat pumps, so they have air conditioning and heating. And they're going to be dripping on the guy's deck below, And there's metal and flashing already coming apart on the first one. I could put my hand through it, like that. And there are people that are fixing leaks constantly. I know that's not your guys' problem, but there should be a quality control or something going on. And they're the one's leaning. And the guy, Lauren's right, the weight of these things, when they put the initial framing up and they loaded it with sheetrock, then they dug that 20-foot wide by 20-foot long ditch 18 feet from it. I have the measurements with my camera on it. I mean, that's no retaining wall or anything. It's just pushing. You need to get geoscience or somebody that should have did a soil compaction test or something on it. And I'm not going to pick on Matt tonight because he had nothing to do with that, but he might have brought the guy in there. Get rid of it. No, but I don't know how this quality control gets back, and they look like a hotel. And they shouldn't even be here. They took they rezoned things for there used to be gas stations I worked at. I've been here my whole life. And so you rezone where a gas station was and put all this, 33,000 million tons of there on the earth right there, and it's going to cause a problem with the way it's raining and everything. Other than that, how you guys doing? Okay, well, all right. Well, I guess I'll talk to you later. Hey.
Thank you for your
All right,
comments.
thanks.
Yes, thank you. I think it's okay. Are you sure? Okay.
Andrea C. Strand, living here for many, many years in this wonderful beach community. And I have stated before in other meetings that I very much oppose the utilitarian high rises that we see going in around the city. And I hope that we can change that. I'm a believer in the citizens being able to express themselves, in this case, in a citizens initiative. And I will just say that I will be looking for signatures to add to the 1,000 signatures that we need to make the November ballot. I thank you for listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Ms. Walter?
Linda Walter, 272 Beckett Place. I wasn't actually going to speak tonight, but then Lauren, her comments made me remember something that I probably wanted to bring up. And actually, it was from a conversation I had with Mike today regarding the Front Street property for Solstice. There's been comments made that, it's just bare land, there's nothing there, anything's better than nothing. But maybe there's a reason why nothing's been built on that land, because you're dealing with the railroad track, you're dealing with tsunami zone, you're dealing with a shallow aquifer, and then, I hope you don't mind, Mike, wherever he is, that I mentioned, he got stuck down by the railroad track today for a long time because there was a train going by, and I was in my living room and didn't know he was down there, but I love to go look at the train going by. I'm new to the area, so it's kind of a novelty to me. So I usually run out to the living room and see I can barely see it now because of Trinity, but I can see a little bit of it going by. And he mentioned to me today that I was sitting down there and it was a freighter train, which I didn't even know they had freighter trains come by anymore. But he said it was like sitting there during an earthquake with like at least a magnitude 2 or 3 earthquake. Well, I'm wondering, has that been taken into consideration for the stability of these buildings? I mean, you're not only dealing with the other items, but you're also dealing with something that's very rare and kind of a strange thing to think about. But I mean, really, you've got foundation, you've got really not that stable of soil to start with. And I'm just hoping, I mean, we probably can't stop it altogether, but maybe we can make it a little bit lower and make it a little bit more of a stable building. I've also talked to several people that live at Palladium, and they've got lists of problems that they're having that shouldn't be happening in buildings that aren't even a year old. So I think we should consider the quality of what we're doing also. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? Nope. Then I will close general public comment. Thank you so much. And we will now move on to the consent agenda. So the following routine items listed on the consent portion of the agenda are scheduled for consideration as a group. We have the minutes of the City Council meeting on Monday, January 26th, 2026. The adoption of the 2025 update to the Grover Beach Local Hazard Mitigation Plan, and the introduction and first reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 50 of Title 5 of the Grover Beach Municipal Code to add some sections. So I will now open for public comment on the consent agenda, and I have one speaker slip, Lauren Westfall.
Okay, good evening again. Obviously, it should have been a better day outside since it rained and muggy and had nothing better to do than read the agenda. Reading through item number 4, I have several questions, but of course, tonight the council is most likely going to approve it and rubber stamp it because 9 o'clock is bedtime. When the council reads this report, specifically C14 economy, based on the 2023 American Community Survey, did you clearly understand it was a survey performed by the U.S. Census, or did it take you a little while in further reading into the charts? Staff report claims the labor force of Grover Beach is estimated at 6,892 people, and 18.8% of the jobs is accounted for education service, healthcare, and social service. 3 important workforces that people want to hear and believe. However, I couldn't find that data. The data I found is Grover Beach's workforce is 6,700. Food preparation and serving related jobs is 10.8%, and building and ground maintenance is 5.59. Education is only 3.8, healthcare is only 4.85, and community social service is 2.94, which a combined total of 11.61 versus the 18.8 your report claims. Let's go with the housing average income. Obviously, there's a typo. Somebody forgot to put the 0 and put 1, because according to your report, the household income is actually $104,000, not $114,000 if you Google it. Staff report you claim is above average in the county versus the state. This is completely misinformation. According to one report I found, Grover Beach is higher in poverty than Morro Bay. If you actually made it to C16, the development trend without your head spinning, finally staff reported the actual speak of the possibility of liquefaction and required geotechnology analysis for areas of unstable soil conditions for new development. Now, that will benefit this. Now that it's going to benefit the city by FEMA grants, now you're finally reporting it. With all this said, I want to find out if the report of the 245 versus the 312,000, is that the additional cost or the total cost, and what is the $1,875 for the contribution? Is that a monthly, annual, or a one-time contribution? Again, and what is it required for? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to speak on the consent agenda? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? No? Then I will now close public comment for the consent agenda, and we will bring it back to the council for any questions or comments. No? Okay. All right. Then can I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion that we adopt it.
I got you second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Robert,
Yes.
Councilmember Tuggle,
Yes.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll,
Yes.
Councilmember Wyrick,
Yes.
Mayor D.
Yes. All right, that passes. So we will now move on to our public hearing. This is the public hearing to consider potential public service programs and projects for inclusion in the 2025 State Community Development Block Grant application. And I will pass it over to Community Development Director Martin and Associate Planner Reese. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Janet Reese, Associate Planner. This evening, you'll be considering applications for the 2025 funding cycle for the Community Development Block Grant program. The U.S. Department of Housing and Development program authorizes the use of funds for activities that benefit low and moderate income households and individuals. Since the 2013 funding cycle, the city has participated in the non-entitlement program administered by the State Department of Housing and Community Development, or HCD, and has received estimated $11.8 million in grant awards, including grants for public improvements, public facilities, public services, and planning and technical studies. HCD released the 2025 NOFA on September 30th with $27 million available for non-entitlement cities. The city held a public input meeting on October 20th, and then on November 10th, the council conducted a public hearing to review and consider eligible activities to apply for. For this NOFA, eligible jurisdictions are able to apply for a maximum of 3 activities with a total maximum funding of $3.6 million. Given the program's funding limitations, the council directed staff to pursue option B to allow a sewer infrastructure project for $3.3 million and up to 2 public service activities for a maximum combined total of $300,000. During the November 10th hearing, the council received public comment from 3 public service applicants and directed staff to review proposals in return for further consideration of these proposals. First is the Non-Congregate Shelter Navigation Center program by 5 Cities Homeless Coalition. Since December 2022, they've operated Cabins for Change, and then a second navigation center called Ballyco Ambarca since 2024. The total application request was $230,000, which would provide a little over $214,000 in operating funds to provide shelter, food, and supportive services to people who are experiencing homelessness. The second request was a subsistence payment program by 5 Cities Homeless Coalition. This program would provide payments for Grover Beach residents who are low or moderate income and who are at risk for homelessness. Funding will provide one-time or short-term emergency payments to prevent homelessness, including payments for utilities to avoid shutoffs or rent to prevent eviction. The total funding request of $70,000 would provide $65,000 in program funds. And then finally, the third request is from the South County Mobile Shower Program. This request, totaling $16,000, would provide $15,000 in program funds to expand the current shower program, which currently operates at the House of God Church at 946 Rockaway Avenue by providing up to an additional 2,500 showers for unhoused individuals annually. As noted earlier, the maximum allowed grant award for this NOFA is $3.6 million, with $3.3 million allocated towards the sewer infrastructure project and $300,000 available between up to 2 public service activities. All 3 requests before you and their scopes of services are eligible and meet the criteria to qualify for CDBG funding. Staff recommends that the council provide direction by selecting one of these options on for the 2025 CDBG public service applications and direct staff to prepare and return with a resolution authorizing the submittal of the applications consistent with council's direction. And then with that, I'd like to introduce Paul Ashby, introduce and invite Paul Ashby to provide any additional comments.
Thanks, Janet. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Good to see you all again. Paul Ashby, Adams Ashby Group. We've been working with the city for a number of years on your CDBG program. Janet laid it out pretty well for you. I was here in November when we discussed the sewer line already, so tonight we're just looking for some direction on the public services. Just two things I wanted to point out. CDBG does have a 50% rule that they call now. So once you get funds, you do need to expend 50% of those. So whatever we select, they would need to expend 50% before you can apply again for that type of a program. And the only other caveat that wasn't included in the staff report that is fairly new that HCD has put out is, so we're in the 2025 cycle, even though we're in 2026. But the next two rounds, they have made jurisdictions aware that it sounds like they will not be allowing folks to apply for public services, and they're just going to be focusing on infrastructure and public facilities. So normally when you have a few there, I know that sometimes you can look at them and say, well, let's, which works best for this year? Maybe next year we apply for this one. I just at least wanted to bring that to your attention that at least the next two cycles that may not be an option. That's just, that was an email that went to everybody. They took comments on it. I don't have anything in a NOFA yet, but I just wanted to share that with you. And happy to answer any questions you might have as you guys discuss it. Thank you.
Well, good. Thank you so much. Okay, I will start with questions to my left.
I just want to clarify with what you have heard that might be for the next two cycles, that they may not include us being able to help local nonprofits.
Correct. So what they've said for the 2026 and 2027 cycle is that they will be going back to the over-the-counter process, which we've discussed a little bit, which is OTC, and focusing on projects. And that's the only information we've had is that they're increasing that amount and looking to do larger scale projects, trying to get more money out quicker. And that's as far as we've gotten information on.
Okay. And then can you qualify what you mean with spending 50%? Is that from the time we receive the money, from the time it's allocated out to the nonprofit?
Yeah.
What is that?
So as soon as you receive a standard agreement, you have 33 months to expend it, and the contract's 36 months to close out. So once you receive that agreement, the clock starts on when you've expended it from when you apply. So if you receive a contract, let's say last July, and you wanted to apply again come April, the contract that you have would need to be expended 50% down of those grant funds before you can apply for that same activity again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And you might just want to stay up there.
Come back. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, and actually I want to get clarification on the 50% rule that you were talking about. Is that just for the service activity, or is that for the infrastructure part too?
Great question. So typically it's for housing, it's for programs and public services. This year, though, they are actually saying that that's you're going to need to be 50% expended down across the board for your different contracts. Correct.
Okay, so even though we're talking about the service part tonight mainly, but if on the infrastructure part, if we were awarded that, then basically our staff would have to get on that very quickly, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So now we're going farther down in the weeds. So the only caveat to that being is that they will take the like-for-like activities and they will aggregate your contracts together. So if you have one contract, it would be 50% of that. If you have two, they would take them combined and it would be 50% of that, and so on and so on.
Gotcha. Okay, that told me everything I needed right there. So thank you. And and I don't have any other questions at this time.
Okay. Questions to my right. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
Just want to clarify, we can only choose two options. And what I have for the shower for the people, a funding request is $15,000. It says $1,650, but besides that, if we chose the shower for the people, what happens with that other $65,000, or excuse me, $55,000 that we're available to get?
So Yeah, the 16,000 includes our allowed general administration,
fine.
so that's
Yeah,
why
no, I'm
it's
just-
slightly
yeah,
different.
that's okay.
But potentially, Five Cities Homeless Coalition's program
70,000.
could increase.
Well, it could increase.
They requested for option 2, for example.
Mhm.
They requested
70.
200 for emergency shelters and then 70 for subsistence payment program because they were trying to work within the 300,000.
Right. So if we went with the mobile shower program, that 55,000 would go away? We wouldn't get that?
It depends on the scope of Five Cities Homeless Coalition's services. If they need the additional funds, they can choose to add it as part of the application. And if not, then we would not be requesting the money through the application.
I see.
And it wouldn't necessarily be something that your council would have to decide tonight in terms
Okay.
of cost. It just would be which 2 public service options are you looking to direct staff to submit applications for. Staff can then, based on that direction, work with Five Cities. If you did go with option 2, work with 5 cities to move that number around if they need it.
And just to add to that, Ms. Martin, is it true that this would fund only 2 activities? So we can't fund 3. So if it was
that's
Shower
right.
the People and it'd be one other Five Cities Homeless Coalition activity, not the 2 that are submitted here.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
All right. So I will now open the public hearing. First speaker slip I have is Gary Peterson, followed by Michael Azevedo.
Great to be with you today. Gary Peterson, I'm the general manager of Shower the People. We've been showering in Grover Beach for about 7 years. We've showered about 8,000 individuals who've approached us for a shower. Prior to COVID, we were showering 3 days a week in South County, and it's very restrictive down here. Grover Beach has one of those restrictive policies on showering the homeless. So San Luis asked us to come up, and so we've been going to San Luis. We're doing San Luis up to 4 days a week right now. And we've purchased a new van for San Luis Obispo and a new trailer. Spent about $150,000. And the decision we have to make as an organization is, do we donate our existing van and trailer to Paso Robles who needs a shower, or do we donate essentially the van and trailer to South County exclusively so that we can go back to 2, 3, or 4 days a week down here in South County? So that was the nexus of the request. The new trailer comes online. It'll be in Grover Beach tomorrow at People's Kitchen. Just paid $75,000 for it. It'll be the first time it's being used. But we would desire to keep a trailer and a van in South County available for use and to go to 2, maybe 3 days a week to meet the needs. We used to shower in Oceano over at CHC. They would schedule all the homeless visits for CHC on one day, and we would shower before they went in so that they were clean when they saw the doctor. We've showered for Lucimar property. We've showered on county property down here. There's plenty of locations. We just need the vehicle to do so. And San Luis has pretty much laid down the marker and say we want full access because they have a significant need there. So that's the ask. We're grateful to be here. Great story. We showered a guy a while back. He told me he owned a home in Grover Beach for 29 years, raised his family here. His wife died, and he spent the last 9 years homeless. He started drinking, lost everything. The oldest woman we shower in Grover Beach is 85 years old. Her name's Lovey. She sleeps on the floor of a mobile home or a little motor home where a guy drives around. Most of our homeless that you get to know are from San Luis County. They're not transients who are wandering through town. They're long-term people who are unable to navigate the complexity of life in California. And so we're glad to serve. We're glad to be here. This funding would make the difference in South County retaining a vehicle for exclusive use. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Michael Azevedo.
Hello, Mike Azevedo, Senior Housing Program Manager for the Five Cities Homeless Coalition. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff. Just to highlight the importance of the application that we have, the amount of people that we plan to serve with this funding. would be 180 individuals within our 2 shelters, and we would serve 52 individuals and 23 households with the subsistence payments for direct rental assistance. Through the 2 non-congregate shelter centers, we are looking for operation funds to provide shelter, food, and supportive services, including showers and meals on site. The spectrum of the services that we provide include housing navigation, application fees, security deposits to move into housing, utility assistance, case management to make sure that housing is affordable once it's located and moved into. We're looking to serve all these people at the Cabins for Change program and Balaiko on Barca program, both located in the city of Grover Beach. There are currently 50 non-congregate shelter beds that this funding would support. In the fiscal year of 2024 and 2025, we provided shelter to 143 individuals. That included 10 transitional aged youth and 78 single women. The framework of the program is to offer shelter and services for approximately 90 days, including intensive housing case management, supportive services, and assistance in navigating basic life skills. The program is offered at both of those sites, and we did a lot of extensive research and staff training, visiting other locations in California prior to opening to make sure we were offering a good range of services. There are currently 548 people on the wait list for those 50 beds, so that just kind of highlights the need to keep the shelter beds open. For the homeless prevention, in the fiscal year of 24-25, 5 cities assisted 327 individuals within 145 households through the homeless prevention program. Our track record has shown that less than 5% of those people served in the prior 24 months have fallen into homelessness after receiving this assistance, which includes a highly vulnerable transitional age youth population. Thus far in the fiscal year of 2026, we've helped prevent homelessness for 103 individuals and 75 households. The Grover Beach CDBG funding is especially important for subsistence payments because this community does not allow for federal funding to provide rental assistance within the city of Grover Beach. The majority of our homeless prevention funding is through federal sources. So without this funding, we would struggle to find other funding sources to provide rent for families that are at risk of losing their housing. And we would not have any concerns meeting the 50% expenditure deadline. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Azevedo. Is there anybody else who wishes to come up and speak? Yeah, Mr. Swift.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. I hadn't planned on speaking, but something caught my attention in the proposal that the Shower the People proposal made a quick statement that they were going to put the shower facility on the 900 block of Rockaway. And while I don't live there, so I'm actually probably speaking for people who I've heard talk about that facility on Rockaway, is that will this add additional intensity to the use of that church property on Rockaway that the neighbors aren't aware of? They already get a fair amount of visits for the services that are at that church. Would this up that intensity? Again, not that I'm necessarily objecting to the Shower to the People proposal, but just that is that the right location, or would they be better suited putting that on the county property by the Cabins for Change and spare the 900 block of Rockaway a little bit of additional intensity in the use of that church facility, as I've heard that church facility has not always been a great neighbor to those people down there. That's all.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to come up and speak? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? Okay, I will now close the public hearing, and we will bring it back to the council to deliberate and ask any questions. Any additional questions? Does anybody? Yes, would you like to start?
So I have a couple of questions. One, not being familiar with why 5 City Homeless Coalition actually broke this down into 2 separate grants. Could they combine the 2 different grant requests into one for that slightly lesser amount?
They're 2 different programs.
They're 2 completely separate programs and activities.
Okay, so
They
there's
have-
all right. And so my other one would be actually of 5 City Homeless Coalition. Is there any opportunity for them to offer showers to other people other than those that are residents of their housing? Because you mentioned showers in your presentation.
Yes, hi. Great question. It is a conversation that we've had internally about helping with showers for folks who are not currently staying at the shelters. We do have a strong partnership with Shower the People, and they've actually been kind enough to help us in the past with developing some policies around showering. So it's something that's definitely on the table for us to extend that service outside of the shelters.
Okay, and would there be an opportunity to have Shower the People on site?
I think it's a conversation we could have. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further questions?
No questions, but I mean, as far as comments, I mean, obviously, all these programs are doing things stuff too for our most vulnerable people who, let's be honest too, they don't want to be in that situation. It's some might say it's God's work, but it's the necessary things to take care of our residents. And so I do see how this always gets tricky, especially for someone with a little too big of a heart on his sleeve like me. The one thing I do want to mention is, based off of what was told tonight too, that the next 2 cycles of CDBG won't be offering a service part, really flags my mind on this one, because for the emergency shelter operation program, those ones are typically, they get a lot of funding to build it, but then to maintain it and actually do the services is where it's always the crux. This has been a problem in human services for a long time. So to operate it continually is super important, and it almost sounds like if it's funded that it's probably extending to address the problem that they're going to have to look into much more in the future too, but at least this carries it on. And the subsistence payment programs, obviously, preventing is always cheaper than addressing people who are in the middle of it all too. So those usually are more successful work too. And showers, people need it, and it's definitely a lot harder for those who are looking to try to refigure out and re-navigate life again too, to get the social disdain from people. Unfortunately, I've seen it. I've seen people how they look at others and comment on their scent and all that too. And so I like all this stuff too. The one thing that, because we're not going to have this kind of funding available again too, does come to mind is I'd rather maximize it, the highest dollar amount we can get out of it now. So that's where option 1 comes into play for me. So that's kind of where my thoughts are at this point. But I'm glad that at least both organizations, SOC and SEP, are having good partnerships with each other to maybe find solutions that aren't just related to this process. I know this process is what we're talking about, but there's other different collaborations that hopefully might be options too.
Okay, thank you for those comments.
I do have questions,
Yeah.
and I'll hold my comments till that time.
For sure.
Mr. Peterson, can I ask you a question? Thanks. So you mentioned having something in South County. At this point, do other municipalities or entities donate to the shower? Like, are we getting money from Pismo, AG, us, or is it just us, or is it everybody else and not us?
So Pismo Beach has conditionally offered $5,000 for showers, and Rio Grande has offered a similar amount.
Okay.
Our permit for showering in Grover Beach is 7 days a week. I sat here for 3 hours in a public hearing to get it. But we are licensed. We have a permit to shower 7 days a week on Rockaway. And we intend on doing at least 2 days a week there, because that's where they congregate at lunch. And we're only on site for just under 3 hours. So.
Okay. So just to be clear, Pismo's given a verbal commitment to 5,000, and AG's given a verbal commitment to 5,000, or 10.
Yeah, so Pismo Beach's issue was they said, hey, you're doing a great job in Grover. We'd like to cut you a check for 5,000. Yeah.
Very true. Thank you very much, Mr. Peterson. I appreciate it.
No questions? Okay. Okay, so there's no questions here. I don't have any questions. Comments? Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
All right, obviously it's all great, and I hate that we're competing for a smaller pie. It's heart-wrenching. My first thought off the cuff is, yes, we want to maximize to the 300,000. So for me, that has got to be an essential part of our decision. That doesn't mean that I couldn't have a conversation about changing the numbers, but as they stand now, that's important. I value the work so much of 5 City Homeless and Showers for the People. But when we're looking at dollar values, my work on HSOC and my own research just reiterates again and again, preemptive, preventative intervention, keeping people housed and not letting them become homeless is the most effective thing we can do with our money. So in general, I'm always going to lean towards keeping people in the house they're currently in. and not letting them get to the place of homelessness. As soon as we start reacting, our effectiveness diminishes exponentially. And it doesn't mean that I don't think we should react. Do not misunderstand that. But when we can, if we have to make a choice in general, I don't think it's just statistically more effective a use of the dollars to do preventative spending. So off the cuff, that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
Oh, and could we find another way to match the other city dollars instead of giving the location and a lump sum, a larger sum? Can we explore that as a second conversation possibly?
I can agree with that.
Okay. Comments to my left?
I agree with that too. I also would like to see more partnerships. I always, working for a nonprofit, it's very important to me that everybody partner. So I liked hearing what I heard from 5 City Homeless Coalition. Keep up those conversations. Let's all work together to address everybody's needs. But I also agree we need to maximize the dollars that are on the table right now. So if there's an opportunity for some adjustment to be made on the 5 City Homeless Coalition side, that would be great. But I also like the idea of maybe if we could, and I don't know if we could use any other funding to give at least $5,000 to the mobile shower program. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what I'm hearing a lot of is we don't want to leave Shower the People out, but we also want to maximize the amount of money that we are asking for. I have to echo Councilmember Wyrick's comments about choosing the one that will maximize those dollars. As far as, and then I want to echo also what Councilmember Tuggle said about keeping people in their homes is extremely important. So I really do like the subsistence payment program. I think that's a really important part of this piece. I appreciate what Shower the People does for our community. I would just hope that in this case, this is an avenue for us to compete for larger dollars alongside other jurisdictions. And because of this number that Shower the People has, I'm leaning more towards option 1 for emergency shelter operations and subsistence payment program with 5 Cities Homeless Coalition. That being said, I would hope that maybe, it sounds like there's some interest in a conversation with giving some dollars to Shower the People from our own money, which in a couple seconds we're going to learn a lot about. So maybe we can come back to this conversation, or I'm not quite sure what the process. I would like to get council input on that conversation. But there's also a possibility or opportunity that I would love to see somebody outside of this room, whether it's a nonprofit or service group, to help Shower the People if we are unable to help them as well. So those are kind of what's the thoughts that are going through my head. But I'd like to pass the mic to somebody else if somebody else would like to piggyback.
Yeah, I don't know the exact process, but I do support the general idea. And I do think there's work to be done to build a consortium of support for Showers for the People, possibly to include other nonprofits, possibly to include donors, possibly to include us, possibly to include the county, because it's, you guys are crossing every boundary.
Yeah.
So maybe just ask staff to come back with some options for ways that we could support, and then also maybe we could share more ideas outside of this conversation.
Okay, sounds good. What do we think about that? Councilmember Wyrick?
Yeah, I agree. And also, I do think it's important to state that any decision we make tonight isn't to devalue the people that are doing the work and stuff, and those are being served. Those people have been devalued enough by society, and I get exhausting conversations with people and stuff too who dehumanize others left and right, especially in stuff for people who are experiencing homelessness who, yeah, they're someone's family. Yeah, they lived here. I know people who are homeless that I grew up with. This isn't something that, like I said, any decision we make and stuff too shouldn't be treated and stuff is that we're playing onto that too. So I'm glad the rest of the council and stuff too also has a justice way too of addressing the stigma, and I'm looking forward to those other options too.
Okay. All right. So I can make a motion if we're all kind of nodding our heads. Yes. Okay. So I'll move that we go with sorry, did you say something? No, go ahead. Okay. I'll move that we go with option 1 the total of $300,000 applying for the Emergency Shelter Operations Program and the Subsistence Payment Program for 5 Cities Homeless Coalition for this Community Development Block Grant. And with the caveat that we would like to hear from staff on options to further support Shower the People in maybe another capacity. And that, I move that.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor D.
Yes.
Councilmember Tuggle.
Yes.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll.
Yes.
Councilmember Wyrick.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Robert.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much to staff. Thank you to our organizations that came and asked for us to do this. So thank you. Those weren't the right words, but you got what I mean, right? Thank you so much. Okay, do we need to take a break before we move on to our next item? No? Good, let's roll. Okay. All right, now we will move on to our regular business. We'll take a second for people to shuffle out of the room if we're talking. And thank you. If you need to talk, you may go out the room. Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move on to the regular business item number 7, fiscal year 2025 to 26 mid-year budget review, mid-year budget augmentation requests, and general fund financial forecast. And I will call on Administrative Services Director Zahmet.
Thank you, Mayor D. and members of the council. It's a pleasure to be here speaking with you again for the 3rd time doing my mid-year presentation. So I'll go ahead and jump on in just to kind of go through several different items, and we'll have an opportunity for questions at the end. So general fund summary for this year, we are looking to end the year with a slightly less than we had anticipated in our budget at $28,355. We were budgeted at $226,608. So that being said, our ending reserves would slightly dip to 28% rather than 31%. And that's largely because we have some higher than anticipated costs that are largely outside of the city's direct control, such as UAL. And I'll go through that in a couple of slides. General fund revenue, property taxes, sales tax, cannabis, transit, our top 5, you can see the pie chart here, color-coded, are trending pretty much on target. Property tax, we anticipate being a little bit higher than budgeted. Sales tax as well, and then cannabis, which is reassuring since cannabis had been dipping for the last couple of fiscal years. Coming back to expenditures, largely anticipate to the larger of the 2 categories that are over is salaries and benefits, and then again that's for UAL, which is our unallocated accrued liability for our pensions. Our medical insurance premiums are also going up, and workers' compensation insurance is also increasing in costs. On the supplies and services side, we have additional costs this year for an engineering consultant as well as electrical utility costs. Although those will largely mitigate out through the end of the year. Moving on to the water fund briefly, current rate structure was adopted in 2021. It expires after this year, so as of July 1, we will have no more rate increases in effect. Just to point out that our bonds do require a certain level of net revenues, although I think at this point we're fine relative to the current fiscal year. However, on expenditure side, we are seeing increased costs relative to Lopez litigation, and that's already hit our budget this year to the tune of $500,000, and we anticipate more costs before the end of the year. Bottom line, reserves are diminishing, and we are anticipating a $1 million overage, or almost a 28% decline in our reserves. So you can see the estimated ending balance between budget and estimated. Wastewater fund rate increase that had been approved by council last spring is in effect as of July 1, as well as we have secured the $4.8 million in financing for the sewer project. So work is underway. Expenditures on O&M and capital are both aligned with expectations. Current rate structure will sustain the fund and maintain our fiscal solvency. And we all are going to be prepared for an emergency. Wastewater fund is doing well, so the rate increase has done what we had hoped. Mid-year appropriations requests, largely this year we have 3. They're all from the police department, and mostly these are to fund existing trainings and or meetings that are going to be reimbursed through post Peace Officer Standards training grants and or other DUI enforcement grant activity. I think that's from the Office of Traffic Safety. I'll move into general fund forecasting. Just give you a broad overview of the general fund forecast. Kind of the idea behind it is it's essentially planning, so, building financially resilient government, communicating to create the transparency and encouraging involvement. It gives us context, informs our goal setting, budget process, and then ultimately we hope that it improves our outcome, so our long-term financial sustainability. Our forecast drivers, economic trends, national, state, and local conditions, city's top 5 revenues. We saw that in the color-coded chart earlier. Our CalPERS investment yield and our UAL, our workforce, and what its size and scope is, as well as debt service repayments, capital improvement program. These are all underlying forecast drivers. Just to go into some of the broad measures, inflation and interest rates. So inflation has moderated in the last 3 years from a high of 8% in 2022, moderating to around 3%. Interest rates have lowered, but they have not reduced costs to borrow for mortgages given high levels of federal debt. So we've seen the Federal Reserve cut interest rates the last couple of quarters, but they haven't impacted mortgage rates as I think everybody would hope they would. Moving on, U.S. unemployment rate. U.S. Unemployment has risen by 3 basis points since last year about this time, 4.4%. We're a little bit higher here in SLO County at 4.5% as of November 2025, although data is a little spotty because of some of the government shutdowns that were occurring in the fall. Housing market's interesting. SLO County has seen a slight decrease in the listing price compared with year-over-year gains. The median sales price countywide is $854,000 in 2025. Grover Beach here in particular, it was $704K or $704,000, excuse me, which is interesting also to note with the chart over there, which is the average price, which is at like almost 1.6 million. So you can see that there's a real disconnect between the average list price and then the actual median sales amount for a home here in SLO County. So there's a lot of homes that are getting listed with that are really high cost homes, right? Latest sales tax forecast, sales tax end of Q3 2025 is up statewide. Central Coast is up 6.3%. It's largely due to tourism, I'm sure. Grover Beach, we're up only slightly, 1.2%. As far as business activity, construction is down slightly in the last quarter, as well as retail. Overall, business activity is slightly down 1.5%. However, sales tax, we anticipate to have a 2.5% increase this fiscal year, as well as project 2% annual growth for the years 2025 through 31. Just get the 5-year forecast summary, which is also included as attachment 2 to this report. Projects slightly moderating reserves in the current years, with some anticipated slight deficits and or surpluses depending on the year. However, the budget over the next 5 years will have small deficits and surpluses projected through 2031, which can be managed. Moderate revenue growth from new developments with expenditures keeping pace without much capacity for new development and emerging trends. Healthy reserves for unseen events and uncertainties consistent with reserves policy that Council passed this time last year. Future considerations will include our labor costs, capital spending, and impact fee revenue from developments. Lastly, Council goals and priorities review. Really, tonight we're receiving the mid-year budget review, including updated general fund financial forecast, and then approving the mid-year budget augmentations. Below the timeline, we're on February 10th. February 23rd, we'll do our goal review. March 23rd, we'll have the CIP. And then May 11th, we'll do the budget update for council and return on June 8th for the budget hearing and budget adoption on June 22nd. And I'm available for questions and comments. Hopefully that wasn't too quick.
No, thank you so much. I'll start with questions to my right. Okay. Questions to my left.
I just have one. Why are we projecting higher sales tax when we're trending lower than state?
That was a
regional
quarterly
average.
Over the year, we're actually up about 2%. I should have made that distinction. I apologize. Year over year, we're up about 2%. Over the quarter, we're down slightly. However, we anticipate that we'll see sizable gains, mostly probably from the completion of the West Grand Avenue project, and we'll see more business activity increasing as that corridor moves out of the construction phase, and then the projects, the new retail leases go into effect, and that's the ultimate goal.
Okay. And that projection is for what time period?
The projection
Are we projecting that 2.5 over the second half of
in
this year?
Fiscal year, we project to increase sales tax revenue about 2.5%.
Okay.
Year over year.
Okay. And then just clarification, the augmentations you referred to from the police department, those are being completely offset by grants.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yep. A couple of quick questions is since, as you noted, that the salaries and benefits part went up because of the UAL. What's our total amount in UAL? And I know I'm always bringing up these pension liabilities issues stuff too, but as far as just describe how that's being managed too, since it's always an area that people see big numbers, they get confused at what it means. So
yeah. So the UAL is a number that is defined by CalPERS, the system that basically accounts for the difference between what they anticipate our current investment yield or investments that we've made. That's the city's money and the employees' money that go into these. So it's the difference between what they've invested and what they actually anticipate having to pay out. So they find that difference, and then they call it the UAL, and they split it up amongst the different plans. If you were to take our UAL for this fiscal year, it's about $1.65 million across all plans. So that's the public, that's public miscellaneous, which was all but safety, and then the safety, which are on a different plan. Now, if you were to look at the UAL across the 20-year time horizon, which they projected, it's about $18 million across all plans for the city of Grover Beach. So now that UAL number is not fixed in time. It changes each year. Prior years based on projections, and then the current year is trued up in the audit. So there's a public actuarial valuation that's done at the end of each year, and it's always projecting out a couple of years. It uses several different factors to basically determine the next year's UAL amount, or the next couple of years' UAL amount, I should say. Largely, that's the discount rate, which is what CalPERS says is what we anticipate investments to earn this fiscal year. They can change that, move it up or down. So in a good year, they may move it up and say instead of 6.8%, we anticipate the system to earn 8%, and that in effect would decrease our UAL because they anticipate our investment earnings to be greater. Other than that, things like a COLA increase for staff. So if we're giving COLA increases, such as we do, we have 3% programmed for the beginning of the fiscal year on July 1. That will increase our UAL because it's anticipating that we're increasing our salaries. So it has an effect, as well as things like mortality rates. So if people tend to live longer, that also increases the UAL. And inversely, if average lifespans are shorter, or yeah, it's it's not that it's kind of morbid to say, but ultimately there are several different factors that contribute to the UAL, and it's something that is consistently moving up or down. One of the bright spots I will say is going back to the discount rate. This fall, CalPERS had the opportunity to modify its discount rate, which it did not. It kept it at 6.8%. However, because of strong investment earnings, the funded ratio for all plans here in Grover Beach are fairly strong. Safety is at about 75% funded ratio, which is really is quite strong. Miscellaneous is about 71%. Combined, we're at about 73% across all plans. So that's a good position for now. However, if we were to have one bad year, that could go down. So it like I say, it's a moving target year over year.
Okay, so I mean, basically, if I'm hearing right, that it went up on our side too, as far as the employer contribution side, a little bit because of the dynamics you talked about too. But that big number of $18 million is not due tomorrow.
No,
because
no, that's a 20-year horizon.
Yeah, because I always have residents who think that it must all be due right now, and it's not.
Not unless we decided to leave the system. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And then I'm sure there's all sorts of other fun legal things.
Yeah, there would be a complete, yeah.
Okay. And then the only other thing too, just because it's come up for wanting clarification, and I mentioned before too that I'd be interested during about this time about finding out. So we have our non-voter based bonds with our water and wastewater part. How are those reflected in this information? Because there's always, when we did them, as far as, especially people talk about like the water bond that happened before, and they're like, well, where is that? Because voters didn't approve it. Where is that found in this kind of information? If it's not tonight, then where would they find it?
I can take that one, council member. So we have two different revenue bonds that we are talking about. One, the water fund, one, the wastewater fund. The one, the water fund, was issued in 2020. So that, excuse me, that was issued quite a while ago. And a chart like we have before you in 2020 would have shown that as revenue bond coming into the system. And then debt service is the annual cost of payment. So now, because it's been 6 years later, we just have that debt service cost as our annual debt service that we pay for that water bond in 2020. For the wastewater bond, 2026, 25, we have the revenue bond showing up as revenue at $4.8 million. And then the debt service is the annualized payment that is starting this year. So from this point forward, you won't see the revenue because that's coming into the system as a one-time cash infusion, but you'll see the debt service going out each and every year for, I think it's 20 years.
Okay, so basically the answer is that it's in here. It's just by the way that bonds work, that it's either in revenue or debt service, and since they start at different times and they're operating in different time lengths, that's why it's not line items is saying water bond or wastewater bond because of the dynamics you mentioned.
Correct. Debt service in this case means payment for those bonds.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Did you have questions? I heard a thing.
She asked it about the police being awash. And then just in regards to salaries and benefits going up, it was like 300,000 that we didn't expect, or that was over what we expected. Yes, the UAL, but is there also an increase to medical and kind of give us a ballpark of what are the biggest actors in that 300,000 increase?
It would be the UAL. It would be also medical expense premiums, so the cost of providing insurance to employees, and then also workers' compensation costs. So the increase, and that is also based off of past history. So essentially, we've had a few more workers' compensation claims, which increase premiums.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I would just add that we were hit with an 11% increase in healthcare costs this year alone, and that was much higher than what we projected, and so that made a big dent. And every time the cost of salaries and benefits go up, so too does workers' compensation, because it's based on that as well.
So when that 11% comes in, is that absorbed 100% by the city? Is it shared with the
It's
employee?
not 100%. It's 100% of the employee-only cost of our lowest cost plan, and because that change was made in the last labor agreements, and so our costs go up, but so too did the employees' costs.
I just have one question. Based off of our last presentation and the presentation that we just received here, is there any, we just discussed maybe giving some money to shower the people. Is there anywhere where we can augment or adjust to help those individuals?
Your council could provide direction that we adjust the mid-year bars budget augmentation requests that were shown to add one for, I think it was $5,000 is what we were discussing for that purpose. It would come out of reserves.
Okay.
In this fiscal year.
And would we have to do that tonight, or could we do this in June when we're adopting a new?
Either way, I don't know what the timing is on their program need.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Those are my only questions. I will open for public comment. I only have one speaker slip, Lauren Westfall.
Okay, this is the last time. Thank you for asking the question about the 3% sales tax. I would like to know, how did cannabis tax increase by 5%? On franchise fee revenues, back in June, before the end of fiscal year budget report, staff told council that the company had made their first payment. What was that amount that was paid in June 2025? Is this an additional payment for the other two lines? And how much are we expecting to be paid annually for all 4 optic lines? And why wasn't the amount recorded in the report? Looking, and as you guys were talking about the workman's comp and insurance and all that, wouldn't it be cheaper to continue contracting engineer services versus hiring, as the city would not have to pay the health insurance, CalPERS, pension liabilities, workman comps, plus the 3% cost of living adjustments? And then when you guys were discussing the water loans, according to your report, you were talking about a short-term loan. I may have been outside talking. But council didn't discuss this little short-term loan between funds to help on the water before we do the increase rates. And that was on page, that was actually under water fund in the second paragraph before the table. The 2021 rates structure was changed from the fixed rate to a tier rate, and it was helped to fund infrastructure improvement and CCB. As we are no longer in CCB and grant funding paid for a lot of the new 2-inch water lines, now is staff going to use the litigation for the Lake Lopez as another reason that our rates need to be increased? No wonder why city refuses to assist Ms. Morningstar and others in determining why she is being charged the 3rd tier rates over the last year. City doesn't care about the conserving water. They just you guys just want the revenues.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to speak on this item? Seeing nobody come forward, is there anybody on the line? Okay, I will now close public comment for this item. So some questions. I'm not sure if you have the answer to this question other than people are just shopping more at our cannabis shops, but the question of how did cannabis tax increase? I imagine there's just more, or I shouldn't answer for you. Sorry, go ahead.
It's actually anticipated to go up 3% year over year. In the budget report, though, it's 5% over the estimate or the initial budget amount. So sorry, the distinction, but it's 3% over year, and then the reason why is, yes, people are shopping more for cannabis. So that the industry or the market has kind of bottomed out over the last couple of years, and we had 3% growth last year, so we're anticipating upwards of 3% this year.
Okay. And then the optic lines, I believe the amount was recorded in our staff report.
Correct. We had $100K last year, and then we had an additional $100,000 for the second line this year, and then that begins annual payments of $100,000 on each, which is paid quarterly, but that's neither here nor there. But so yes, so those begin and have commenced. So
2 lines.
2 lines.
Okay.
That I'm aware of. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, and then let's see. Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions that I might have missed? Questions? Go ahead.
And the only thing that came up, and it's not unique to obviously the city government of Grover Beach, but as far as energy costs going up, is the city exploring different ways to get other program stuff to help reduce the costs? I mean, like I said, this is pretty universal amongst many people, not unique to our city, but it was just one thing that I was curious if that's being explored.
In terms of the electrical utility costs, and yeah, this is a new area that we flagged as part of the mid-year review. I think that's benefit of looking at our budget on a quarterly mid-year basis. So we're going to be looking with Public Works and kind of trying to see if there are certain facilities or certain places where we're seeing greater energy usage, working with PG&E, Central Coast Community Energy around potential energy programs. Both Councilmember McCory Driscoll and myself are now on the boards for 3CE, so we have access to more information about different programs that we can tap into. So we're monitoring this, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll be able to provide more information.
Thank you. Other than that, I'm fine with the police department's mid-year adjustments and.
Okay. Any other comments before we take that motion?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that the cannabis has gone up when a few of my friends own wineries and they're on the struggle bus because people aren't drinking wine. Everybody's growing grapes, and the wine industry is saturated and demand is down due to non-alcoholic options. And then also, because I do sit on Zone 3, I think it's important for me to really highlight the legal fees. They're not going to stop. We aren't even paid up for our current obligation. And the plaintiffs have not, as best I can tell, moved this forward in mitigation. So there's a lot that's not public, but I think it's important to be revisiting it. We can be thankful we're not AG because they take such a large percentage of the water. Their bills are astronomical, more than triple ours, I think. Yes? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I thought. So if you want to pay attention to that, come to a Zone 3 meeting. There will be lots of conversation about it.
Thank you. Any comments, Mayor Pro Tem? Okay. Any comments, Councilmember?
I just want to ask if there isn't consensus amongst us to go ahead and add $5,000 in to the augmentation today.
Today?
I do not have consensus for that because I'd like to leverage it and get more buy-in from more entities. And I have a couple of ideas that I would love to explore to make it more impactful and more ongoing.
Okay.
So that they're not back here in a year from now trying to do the same thing because we can't keep dipping into our reserves.
Yes.
That's not sustainable. So I love the idea and I want to see it happen, but I want to be strategic about how we do it and maybe leveraging community partners in the process.
You took the words out of my brain.
Yeah, and I think the 5,000 just came because we heard AG and Pismo contribute 5,000, but probably more conversations with the city and them need to occur to find out what exactly their need is to relate to that. So I think, obviously that doesn't happen during this council meeting. So yeah, I would be fine with it being delayed for more conversations later.
Any other comments? No? Okay, well, I just, before we do the motion for the augmentation, I just wanted to echo what Councilmember Tuggle mentioned about the Lopez Lake litigation and how that will have a really big, that we'll see financial impacts on that. And I agree that at least we're not Arroyo Grande. I'm so sorry for our sister city, but it's just, we're just going to have to figure something out there. But I want to thank staff for looking at your budgets and cutting where you can without jeopardizing our quality of service for our community. So I just want to thank all staff, all directors across the board for working hard on that. So does somebody want to make the motion for the police?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Okay, we have a motion. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Robert?
Yes.
Councilmember McCory Driscoll?
Yes.
Councilmember Tuggle?
Yes.
Councilmember Wyrick?
Yes.
Mayor D?
Yes. All right, thank you so much. Okay, we are now going to go on to item 8, which is the street repair update. And we'll wait for everybody to come up here. Did anybody need a break? Just move right along. Let's do it. Okay. Yes. Okay, so now we will move on to street repair update, and I will call on the Public Works Director, City Engineer, nope, just kidding, I'm going to call on CIP Manager Wiggin.
Thank you, Mayor D. Thank you, Council. So you identified community infrastructure as one of your multi-year city goals, and this focuses on long-range planning and well-maintained infrastructure, especially including your streets. And the city maintains over 45 centerline miles of streets, or if you think about it a little differently, it's almost 10 million square feet of pavement. And we use a pavement management software to plan our projects and prioritize our street maintenance. So we are currently in the 11th year of your voter-approved Measure K14 bond measure for repairing your residential streets or local streets. It provides $48 million in bonds over a 25-year period. And then we refer to the remainder larger streets as major streets. So this includes 4th, Oak Park, El Camino Real, West Grand Avenue, Farrell, and the Pike. And usually those major streets are funded with LTF funds, general fund, gas tax funds, occasionally grant funds, and other outside sources. Okay, so this slide is a little confusing. I apologize. This header says Measure K14, but this chart is actually for all streets, so just ignore my typo there. So the Pavement Condition Index is your PCI, and it's a rating on a scale from 0 to 100, with 100 being the best. And this is how your streets are essentially measured. And we have a comparison from physically being measured in 2014 to last summer in 2025. And I'll note that our target PCI is 65, and our current PCI for all of our streets right now in Grover Beach is 69. And that's compared to 39 that you had in 2014. So the column on the far right shows the percentages of each category, if you will, where you have excellent, good, fair, and poor. So in 2014, you can see you had 0% of your streets in excellent condition. And as a matter of fact, you had, just over 60% of your streets were in poor or failed condition. And if you look just to the column to the left, which is 2025, which is now, you have 60% or over 60% of your streets are in good and excellent condition. And we still have some work to do. There's about 25% that are in poor or failed condition here. Just looking at your Measure K streets, compared to 2014, in 2014, you had, again, 0% in excellent condition, and your poor and failed were over 60%. And so now in 2025, you have over 70% of your streets are in excellent or good condition. And the PCI for those streets, again, your Measure K streets, is 73. So I really think it's important to highlight the success and to show what local bond measures can do, and celebrate that. And there has been a lot of progress, but there is still a lot of work to be done. We've done over 320 blocks and over 70% of the residential streets. And this is a picture from last summer. The most recent Measure K project was a microsurface treatment in summer 2025. We do have bid documents prepared for CIP 2295-17. It's about a $2.4 million project. It's 13 blocks and does include a storm drain. It includes portions of North 9th, Brighton, Ramona, a couple blocks of North 11th and 12th, mostly east of 8th Street. But construction has been put on hold on this street because of the sewer upgrade work that was required. We had to put the sewer work on hold because we didn't have the funding to do that work. So now with the new rate structure, our sewer project is currently in progress. But with your direction, while that work was on hold, we did proceed with the design of the next Measure K street, which is 2295-19. This is 28 blocks. It's about a $3 million project, and it includes portions of Brighton, Ramona, North 5th, 6th, and 7th, and a couple blocks on North 2nd, and this is all west of 8th Street. So those design documents are being finalized now. So 2295-17 or 19 could be ready for construction this summer in July. We do plan to return to council in the fall to approve the issuance of a $5 million bond to continue the street projects. And we're projecting that all of the Measure K projects could be completed by 2032, so that's well ahead of the original schedule. We have $13 million remaining in the original $48 million bond, and we have 5 projects planned. And we do have the funding shortfall to fully complete the Measure K14 streets, so we'll be looking at additional funding in future CIPs for the remainder of the work. Looking at our pavement management software, when we do the scenarios on completing all of our Measure K14 streets, it's projected that the PCI will be 80 for your Measure K14 streets. I mentioned our target PCI is 65. And so looking at the scenarios for our cost to maintain that target PCI, you're looking at about $2 million a year. We have started programming a street maintenance project in the CIP, and next year we're starting with an initial allocation of $50,000 a year. But there's still a long way to go to get to that 2 million. So we need to look at additional funding sources to maintain your investment, essentially. And just to kind of think about it like this, if we don't do any maintenance, that PCI would reduce to 49 in less than 10 years. And then the last part of your Measure K program that I wanted to talk about is your public-private partnership for property owners. That's a little alliteration for you guys there. But so we do fund half the cost of sidewalk infill on only those streets where we're coming through with the Measure K14 project. Before you started funding half of the work for that, we would have maybe 1 or 2 participants, fund the entire thing and have the city manage their sidewalk infill. And now we have about 4 to 5 per project. So we're slowly infilling sidewalk with that program. And your annual allocation with that is about $50,000 per year. Shifting to major streets, it's typically, we've kind of lacked the funding, but I'd say like the last 4 or 5 years or so, we've had the cannabis revenues and the sales tax revenues to help fund some major streets. So we recently completed 4 years ago, South Oak Park between West Grand Avenue and Mentone. And then you're all well aware that we recently completed the West Grand Avenue Streetscape project. And then we did get direction to focus general fund resources on our local streets. So we do only have one major street programmed in the CIP, and that's North 4th Street. And that scope involves a grind and overlay rather than a full dig out or full replacement of the entire road. It's estimated to cost about just $2 million with a pretty large general fund contribution of $1.1 million. But given the number of current and pending construction projects that we have going on in the city, we are recommending to defer this project to next fiscal year. So we're okay with delaying it a year to maintain that grind and overlay treatment process. But if there's significant delays to this project, we could kind of tip the scale and then require a full rehabilitation. We do have about $20 million worth of unfunded needs in the CIP for your major streets. That includes segments of West Grand Avenue, like 11th to Oak Park, South Oak Park from Mentone to the Pike, South 4th Street, all of Farrell, El Camino, and the Pike. South 4th Street is a significant amount of those costs, just given the condition and the drainage issues that we have there. But we did apply for a Sustainable Communities grant, and we applied for the planning and design for a complete streets project for South 4th, but we won't hear on that until, I think, the fall. And then finally, the last part of this presentation is just a quick overview of the streets south of Farrell Road. You had provided direction to include these in the Measure K14 program, and they are programmed. They are the last. They are included in the last Measure K14 project, and these streets were initially reserved for developers and their successors, but the city has established significant vested rights because of the long-term maintenance and improvement of the streets. So we can use the streets for public infrastructure, but without ownership, we can't expand beyond the current footprint. So we believe that we have the authority to continue maintaining and improving the streets. But we also think that trying to pursue actions to get ownership of these streets would be would take a lot of staff time and money and legal resources without much benefit to the city. So just to summarize here, we don't have any immediate fiscal impacts, and we are looking for your direction on proceeding with either 2295-17 or 2295-19. And we're also looking for your concurrence to delay North 4th Street to next fiscal year. I just want to point out again that we do need additional funding for street maintenance and to complete all of the projects in the Measure K14 program. And then lastly, I'll just point out that SLOCOG does have on the ballot this fall a countywide sales tax measure that could generate funding for transportation projects over 30 years. And I believe the first year would start, our share would be $865,000 for that. And with that, are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Ms. Wiggin. I will start to my left for questions.
I have one, and a great presentation. Thank you. I remember a few months ago we talked about coming up with different plans that weren't necessarily in line. We were going to do some sort of reinvestigating whether we could bring other plans forward sooner or smaller plans. Does that ring a bell?
What comes to mind, council member, is a year ago when we presented the draft CIP to your council in March. We did do some additional due diligence after the council back in January of 2025 asked us to do that, and we condensed some of the projects into kind of larger but projects that we could do more readily. And so now we have essentially 5 projects left. And ultimately, those are projects that we think are feasible in the time period that we have, that would be completed before the end of the K14 program was originally advertised. We would need additional funding at the end to fully complete it. Right. But that was the work that we did to help repackage the projects a little bit better and identify any utility conflicts as well. So that work has been done.
Okay. All right. Because I wasn't thinking about that until just today, and I just wondered, so are we seeing that in the 17 and the 19, the two?
Essentially 17, 19, and then 20, 21, 22. That is reflected in that order of projects as laid out right now.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, so for the first question I had is, it noted a shortfall of $3 to $4 million for Measure K14. Where does that number come from? And the reason why I bring it up, and I brought it up in meetings earlier this year too, that's why I'm confused it's brought up again now, is last year, what was it? I had to look it up during this meeting, I remember let's see, we actually, one of the CIPs, we did basically reallocate the money from that to K14 once, and it was for that West Grand Avenue from Oak Park Boulevard, 11th to Oak Park Boulevard, which I think was like $2.5 million. I remember we specifically did that with the intention of moving it towards, because this gap existed around that time as well. So did that happen or not? And I understand that even when the budget documents we adopted last year didn't explicitly state it, so I'm wondering if we need to explicitly state it now.
So that funding wasn't programmed in the current budget years, and so nothing's been allocated, just like nothing else in the CIP for 2029 has actually been allocated. They were planned, and the funding for that project was planned for, I think, 2028, but it's not in the current budget because we're not in that budget year yet. So the next budget, if we have funding available, it would be allocated more to the local streets and not to the major street projects.
But this $3 to $4 million isn't the current budget itself either. It's
the $3 to $4 million is an estimate in future years, correct?
Yeah, it's the entirety of it too. So shouldn't it be less than that? Because with the same token that
it's not less, because we don't know what we will allocate in that budget year. So we're just saying what the gap is. How that will be filled in future years would come with future budgets.
Okay, because I think it it's confusing every time I see that huge number when we intentionally took action to reduce that huge number over the years too, not just within, because it's in the CIP, and because it was the CIP is multiple years too. That's
right. The CIP is a planning document, not an allocation document, right? It plans is what we would like to get done in the CIP, but we don't know until we're in the budget process and we know what funding is actually available, how it will actually be allocated. And that's why the CIP changes year to year.
Also, just to add to that, what the council discussion was about was regarding the general fund contribution for a street project. It wasn't necessarily K14 or major streets explicitly. It was how to spend general fund dollars, which are relatively limited for streets projects, to have the most impact. And the council wanted to steer more of those dollars towards local streets. And where that did come into account was in boosting up the local street maintenance program, which is repairing local or maintaining local streets have already been repaired. So we did increase that project as part of the CIP, redirecting some of the general fund dollars that were going to West Grand Avenue and other major streets towards local street maintenance. So in essence, we did defund the major street projects, but we just increased some of the small funding for local street maintenance projects that you see within the CIP. But the overall amount in the K14 projects, the bigger repair projects, that's still out there. That's still the unfunded amount that we hope to close over time. But right now, it's still at $3 to $4 million amount.
I'd have to look at that meeting because I was pretty sure it was supposed to be for K14. That's why I'm a little confused at this point.
Well,
So-
the local streets are K14 as well. Those are all residential streets to help, and the street maintenance also were streets done by K14.
But it was specific to close this gap because with the gap that's huge, to find other fundings more difficult. So okay, well, like I said, I'll just have to relook over that too.
I think it's just, the gap is not in this budget. There's no gap in this budget for K14 because the projects that are budgeted for K14 are going to be fully funded with the proceeds of the bonds.
Okay, because then at that same meeting, and I'm looking at the presentation from March 24th now, and during that same presentation noted, and the numbers have changed too during that time. So, but the old numbers that noted in the presentation was Measure K14 bond fund will be insufficient to complete portions of then 2295-22 and the entirety of 2295-23. So that's where our decisions today on how we do this and the sequencing of these projects will leave some projects to a degree maybe fully unfunded. So
Correct.
there's a direct connection of what we do now and how it affects this with this gap. That's why I'm bringing this up, basically. So that's my first question. And like I said, I'll just have to redo my research on that one, on what we did.
If I may, I also, is there some truth as well to, we don't know how much these projects are going to cost in that future? Like what you said, 2028, 2029, we have no idea how much those, because if let's say, these are fake numbers, let's say we allocated $100,000 to offset that $3 to $4 million, in that future, if we didn't allocate those funds, maybe it would have been like $5 to $6 million or something like that. So we just really don't know what that future number looks like. But the staff has the direction to allocate those funds to the K14 projects. Would I be correct in that statement?
To the K14 project and the local streets away from the major streets. And that's, in essence, what's before you. Aside from North 4th Street, there's no funding for any major streets within our 5-year CIP per council direction. And so I think we've made that shift to local streets. I will mention, I think Aaron touched on this, is we'll come back to the council with a draft CIP coming up on March 9th, if I'm correct. So a little earlier this year. So that's another opportunity to take a look at what's in the CIP draft and provide some additional input around what's coming forward. We still don't have funding to close $3 to $4 million of general fund dollars. That's a big shortfall that we still have to manage with a relatively limited general fund allotment. If the slow cog measure goes forward, hypothetically, that could be a significant benefit for local streets, major streets, anything the council were to choose for transportation. But right now, our general fund dollars are really limited when it comes to streets across the city in any way.
Like I said, I'll just have to do my research back on it too, as far as what we did, since even though it's a planning document, why do we have planning documents if we're going to say that the numbers don't matter? The numbers do matter what we do. So I'll just leave it at that. One of the other questions I had was when it came to, because we did run into that issue when it came to 17, as far as the sequencing part for having sufficient funding for the wastewater, sewer, and water utility work underneath, because everyone agrees that, yep, do the stuff underground first, do the stuff on top afterwards. It always makes sense. As far as the sequencing of the way the projects are do we know which streets and projects do still have to have that work underneath it to be sufficiently done at this time? That's where I'm curious as far as how we're doing that dynamic, since I don't want to run in that situation again.
Yes. So our current sewer project that we're constructing right now impacts some streets that are in 17 and also in Project 20. So we don't have any other sewer conflicts that we know of right now. We are updating the sewer model, and we might have new information, but at this time, there are no other foreseen conflicts with planned construction for streets.
And is that the same for the water too, as far as the water utilities, or just?
That's correct. There's no planned, yeah.
Okay, perfect. And as far as the nature of that, yes, if we have vested rights to, as far as, a lot of those streets in the industrial area, is there a way that residents could basically, who and not all of them know that they have part of their streets a private street. That's why this issue's kind of came to head earlier. Is there a way that residents could basically sign off and say, hey, I want to have this become public, turned over to the city, because I understand I understand what you're saying, that it could put a lot of work into it, but if they want to do it themselves, is there a way to do that?
Good evening, Councilmember Wyrick. They could, and if all of the properties that are contiguous to those private streets agreed to deed those private streets to the city, that is a possibility. But again, it would take cooperation from all of the property owners, because if even one didn't agree to grant deed the street to the city, then the city would be required to engage in eminent domain or some other process to essentially take that portion of the street. So it is possible, but it would require a lot of cooperation from the property owners.
Okay, because right now, from what the presentation is, that we could do the main things we could do, even with that caveat in place that they're private. But if they did want to do it to make it clean and clear, from this point on, they could do it. Would there be a way that the city can make it easier for them to know if they're one of those property owners? Because I know some of them don't know that they were when I had conversations and stuff with some of them in the past.
So you're just asking whether or not the city should notify the property owners that they're actually private streets?
If there's an easy way to make sure that they can know that, because like I said, I've had conversations with residents out there who didn't know and didn't even know that was a problem in the past.
Yes, I think the city could send out a notice to the affected property owners just to let them know of the opportunity to deed the street to the city, so to speak, and here's how to get more information, and just trying to make the process streamlined so that it wasn't an overly complex and burdensome eminent domain process or anything down that road.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would assume, a lot of the property owners no one would create a bug in that one too, just because it makes it easier for their life as well. But also it reduces any kind of future changes in law or case law too that could throw a wrench in. Well, we have rights now, but later on, if they're private-ish, we might run into issues. So that'd be helpful. So those are the main questions I have for now. I'll probably have more stuff come out later, though.
Okay. All right. Questions to my right.
Real quick. Do we know how many owners are involved?
For the public-private partnership?
Yeah.
So on 19, and that's actually a good question.
Just a roundabout number. Is it 10 or 50?
It's 4 on 19.
4? Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so I believe the question before us is which project we want to go forward with first, and I have a question of clarification there. 17 is, thank you. That'll help me keep it straight. 17 is the one with the sewer, yes?
Correct.
Okay, so if we choose 19 and we don't choose 17, will 17 be left with streets that are kind of chewed up, or will we spend more money to temporarily put them back?
I don't understand how this works. I need big picture, and Greg's smiling at me, so.
That's a good
He's
question.
trying not to laugh at me right now, but it's okay.
That's a good question, especially with the sewer work coming in and all the trenches and stuff that will occur with that. We might have some more patchwork that we'll have to do to kind of hold on until we can do the full rehab about a year later. So.
And you would not have to do that patchwork if you did them simultaneous.
Well, we're right after. Yeah, yes, correct.
That's not the right word. Simultaneous. What's the sequenced?
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. And then one more question. Do we think over the next year, and I know this is a hypothetical, but if we were kind of looking at the past, waiting on the larger, okay, so do we think the projects will go up enough in cost, just because it seems like every year things get more expensive, that doing 19 first would actually save us money?
So
I know that's a lot of hypotheticals, but just try to get.
And that's a really good question, and I don't have a crystal ball on that, but I will say, as we've completed a majority of these streets, 70%, we're getting to, I'll try and explain this. For example, we've done a lot of east-west streets. Now we're going north-south. So we've done a lot of the curb ramps already on a lot of those streets. So while 19 is a very large project, proportionately, the amount of curb ramps, those are the corner ramps, the ADA ramps, which cost a lot of money. There's not as many curb ramps. Since we're getting to the end of Measure K, we've done a lot of those curb ramps already. So we're kind of reducing our amount of concrete. So I don't think we'll see like exponential cost increases like that, if that helps answer your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if anybody else wants to weigh in and have a crystal ball, do we think a year is going to make that big of a difference? I'm past. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions to my right? Any other questions to my left before I open public comment? Okay, I will now open public comment on this item. I do not have any speaker slips. Does anybody wish to come up and speak?
Evening, Council. Mayor David Swift, North Grover. I had two questions, and you kind of already touched on them. The first one was with the ownership of the streets in South Grover, and I know there was interpretations last year that said basically because the city had been maintaining them, they sort of maintain control over them. They apply city codes to them. A lot of that revolved around traffic enforcement, and I think the only thing I would add to that is if it's fairly straightforward to get agreement from the lion's share of the owners to do that without a lot of trouble, it would seem like that would clear up the ownership in the south part of Grover. And Griffin is a good example that Griffin is actually private now at the Farrell end and private at the Highland end, with a public piece right in the middle of it, that whoever did the development actually converted that to a public piece. So it's a really odd one. But I would say if it can be done without a lot of trouble, that seems like something to clean up the paperwork. The other one was on the slow tax measure. So it's a half % sales tax. Is that sufficient to make us a self-help city so that we qualify for grants to fill out that that needed $2 million in maintenance money, or are we going to have $800K and still no grant leverage to get the rest for $2 million in maintenance? And if that's the case, then what is the path forward to raise additional funds through either more sales tax or property tax to find that $2 million? Because as the city manager said, there isn't $2 million just floating around in the general fund. That was my questions for you. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Any other comments? Is there anybody on the line? All right, then I will close public comments and we'll go back to these questions. Talking about the city leverage and the self-help county, what does that look like as far as leveraging those dollars?
So the proposed measure from SLOCOG is a county-wide sales tax measure that, if it was put on the ballot and if approved by voters, would make SLO County a self-help county, which means that SLO County would be eligible for additional state and federal grants that right now the county cannot apply for because we don't have a local approved sales tax. So it wouldn't be a city-related definition, it'd be a county-related definition. So the $865,000 represents the amount that we would get annually as part of this tax measure index with inflation. So it would rise over time, over 30 years. And that's money that would come to the city and at the discretion of the city council. Could be spent on any transportation purpose that the council so deems fit. There are also regional opportunities for regional grants in addition to the local grant. So projects such as South 4th Street, potentially the Pike, ones that have interjurisdictional issues could be eligible for additional grant money as well.
Okay. And then I believe the second question was if that doesn't go forward, or in addition to that, what is another path forward to raise dollars for that $3 to $4 million?
That is the $2 million question.
Yes.
Pun intended.
I'm sure.
And ultimately, that is a conversation at a policy level for the city council, not just now, but going forward. That's a significant sum of money. When our entire general fund budget is $2 million, that's at 10% equivalent to maintain the investment that voters have put and that councils and staff over many, many years have implemented. That would have to come from a variety of different conversations and looking at potential revenue measures, looking at potential expenditure allocations. That is not an easy proposition for a dollar amount of that size, not to mention the shortfall that we still have in Measure K14 funds by 2032. So there's a lot of conversations still to come about how that would be generated. And ultimately, we'd be engaging the council in those deliberations for the next several years.
Wonderful. Thank you for answering those questions. Okay, so we'll bring it back to the council for any other questions, or if anybody wants to kick off a conversation. Councilmember Wyrick.
I know I'm starting this one, but it's for a very particular reason too, is because we're going to have this shortfall with numbers to be determined in real time. Later, I get it. One thing that I just can't overlook is the idea of moving forward with 17 makes sense. But the sequencing of the next ones, when you look at our attachment 1 in our staff report, knowing that there's going to be basically projects unfunded all the way to, it looks like that's the whole burden of South Grover. It's going to be on most of, but if 17 and 19 are done in that sequence, there's a little bit in north of Grand. When I say North Grover, I mean north of Grand, that has remaining on K14, but the rest of it's all South Grover. So as far as how the sequencing part could be done, I don't think 19 actually, even after if we did 17, would be a good idea, because suddenly, congratulations, the entire unfunded part of this will be with you all later on. And if costs go up too, then those projects might even be less. So I don't think it's fair on an equitable sense too to have that sequencing occur. And when we look at, as far as previous projections and stuff too, some of the projects, were, similar, in cost too, some were lesser, but it's one of those areas that, I just can't not look at and not see. So that's one part that, even though I'm fine with the idea of 17 moving forward, I think we need to resequence the others too. And Ms. Wiggins noted that one of the projects does have some sewer part too, so that's good that part's going to be planned too. But like I said, the colors show quite a story that if we're serving the entire city as a whole, I really do think we have to turn to our city as a whole. And unfortunately, the reality is, a lot of leadership on the city council in the past too. Yes, they lived in North Grover. North Grover is a more affluent area. People know affluent areas tend to have larger voices, but we are supposed to take care of our entire city and all of our people in it. And if you look in South Grover, you'll find over half the parks there too, 2 of the schools, a lot of city facilities too. So there's multiple benefits of taking care of South Grover beyond it just being the right thing to do. So that's one significant part I wanted to bring up too, because we could give direction, like I said, even if we went over with 17, but it's one of those places that I just can't ignore. And yes, I would like to see on the private road side too, as far as making it easier for the property owners to convert it to through a way that, yes, isn't totally, burdensome on staff too, but we do have basically the information and maybe a template that could be provided to them too, where, it will work through the courts and the systems too. And if there's a property owner who doesn't want to go along because they, might say, oh, maybe the city could buy me out for it too, I'm sure their neighbors will hear quite a bit from them too on that as well. So I do think that would be something that would be helpful for us to do to make that process simple, because clean, clear, yes.
So am I hearing that you don't mind if it's 17 or 19, but you wish that 20, or we do one and then move on to, instead of doing, so let's say we choose 17 first, instead of doing 19 next, we do 20, 21, 22, whatever?
And we could go in those details in conversation, but like I said, I'm fine with 17 since that's already ready to go. if we switch that 19 around, I get it too. But yeah, I wouldn't want them both to be done back to back. I'd like to have more of South done too equitably.
Okay. Question, can you, excuse me, so sorry. Question, can you remind me how the order was chosen for these streets, please?
So it was done, council had priorities, several different meetings of priorities, and then it was chosen based on utility work that was required. And we're doing a lot on the north side because we had previously done a lot on the south side with water line work. We did 9, 10, a portion of 11, all of 13, part of 14, and then parts of 12 and 15 on the south side. So then we were shifting to the north side. So that's how it was. It was looked at priorities by the council, utility work, and then also the treatment method, and then the proximity. So we're not doing a block here, a block here, a block here. We wanted to keep it all consistent.
Okay, thank you. I just have to respectfully disagree with the comment that the priority was North Grover because a lot of our leadership on the council was in North Grover. So.
And I want to clarify that it's historically in the city that a lot of people and stuff who've served on the city council live in the north. So the taking care of North Grover has been consistent throughout the city's history. I don't think we need to always continue that too, because yes, we're going to take care of North Grover. We're going to take care of everyone.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the day, it's, I mean, the idea of we're not going to fund, one part or the other. No, the city council, whether it's us here or other people here, they're going to figure that out too. But how South Grover could look at this saying basically that big gap at the end, and yes, if it's $3 to $4 million, that's a lot of streets that won't get done in South Grover because they're going to share the whole burden on that, whatever that gap is. That's concerning as far as the trust our residents could have with us.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree with you that we have to take care of all of our residents. I just had to make that comment.
Ditto. And obviously equity is a top priority in my world, but clarify for me, didn't we direct staff to get 19 up and ready when 17 was paused? Didn't we, the 5 of us, do that?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments or questions? Any questions? Okay.
One, just out of curiosity, what would it look like to reverse 19 and industrial?
So one thing to keep in mind with whenever you shelve a project or have it fully designed and then put it on the shelf until a few years later, we also have there's challenges with that and reissuing the design and getting it ready to bid. But we also have, in this case, I pointed out 4 property owners that have fully paid. We require that if they want to participate in the public-private partnership, they have to pay their full share before we start the design. So we have those people that have fully funded their sidewalk, curb and gutter improvements, which is quite a significant amount of money that we would just have until we get to 19, until we get to 19 at that time. So for the time now to move up 22, the last project, it's about a year before design till we can get to construction for that process.
Okay. I'm just worried about all the flooding that continues to happen over in that area, to be real honest with you. So moving that up, that would be my curious question as to if we could get to that and if it would even help.
Councilmember, are you saying you're asking about moving up project 22?
22 and switching it with 19.
Mm-hmm.
We directed staff to get 19 ready.
I'm just asking a question.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us, what did we actually ask? What did it
No, that wasn't my
impact?
question.
Okay, hold on one second. So the question that's being asked is just what does that look like if we were to move 22 up to 19? Or 20, excuse me.
So basically what would happen if you moved any of the streets that aren't currently designed, as Ms. Wiggin mentioned, you're looking at a year gap. So we'd have the project go now. There'd be a year of design during which no projects would be happening. and then that project could start, and then 19, where people have funded street work, would be fully 2 years later than anticipated. So that's kind of the sequencing of what would happen. As far as the other question you asked, though, was about flooding in particular. And the Major K projects rarely address flooding issues. We have in a couple of instances where that project was already planned, but flooding in the industrial area and areas south of Farrell Road it far exceeds any amount of funding that the city either has available in current general funds, and Major K funds are not used to address those issues.
That answers my questions. Thank you.
May I go ahead?
And so there's the reason why I'm bringing this up this way is that, yes, I was there too with you all when it came to, let's, move forward 19. But it was that same conversation where when we reallocated from CIP 2286 up to on that major street rehabilitation of West Grand Avenue, 11th Street to Elkhart Boulevard, it was under that assumption that that money would reduce the ultimate burn on K14 for that shortage, and that shortage still was there. It was so there was a sense that we wouldn't run into such a big funding gap, which it's clearly gonna, which the way that things are being programmed out right now too is gonna leave that huge gap. There's not that strong commitment that's like suddenly now the number's lower. So it does bring up a different urgency at this point before we get too far, even further, that unless that gap's getting dropped, which apparently, by the way things are planned, reallocating that money didn't do that, then now this moment leaves it where, yes, we could have it be that North of Grover is taken care of, South is the one that takes the full burden of whatever isn't funded, and if the city council staff, other partners can't find the money to fill that gap up in time, then it fully is going to be on those residents. So that's why I'm bringing it up now too, because I assumed that number would be a lot smaller, yet here we still are.
May I offer maybe a solution or a question? Whatever we decide tonight, because I do agree that we directed staff to design projects 17 and 19. Is there an opportunity for us? And part of my comments was that I do like going in the order of process. Those people have been in order for many, many years. I know that there's a lot of people who are looking at the website constantly, seeing when their project is up. But to offer an olive branch, is there an opportunity for us to choose whether 17 goes first or 19 goes first, and then 17 or 19 goes second, and then move one of the, 22, move that one up in the process, in the line, to complete, or to start design and then complete?
Sure. Yes. I think ultimately, once we go forward with either of the next two projects, we would start design of the other project. So that would go forward. It's just a matter of what would be the sequential order and which of those remaining three projects council would like to begin designing first. With 22, I'll just note that there are few residences on 22 compared to 21 and 20, where there are a number of residences. So that may be a factor for the council's deliberation about impact and benefit for property owners. But yes, I think, and Ms. Wiggin, if we began design of 21, 22, or 20 or 21 or 22, we could get that process going. And to your point earlier, that would take about a year for the design work to be ready to go.
That's correct. And you want to time it so these projects happen, one right after the other. So I don't want to design it too far ahead of our
Correct. I think
schedule.
Our goal with K14 at this point forward is that we're just rolling over the next several years. We don't have this 2-year gap that we've had for the last 2 years because of the lack of sewer funding. Our goal is to just move these projects forward. So we would look to your council to, hypothetically, let's say you chose 17 first, hypothetically, let's say you chose 19, and then we just roll into 20, 21, 22, one after the other, so there is no gap. Ultimately, we do have to reconcile the funding gap, and that's going to be an important conversation with your council and the public, but our goal is that we're just doing it one after the other, and so that there is no gap between construction of one project to construction of the next project.
Okay.
Could I suggest that we separate these out, since we have two projects that are already ready to go, shovel ready, that we have a conversation about which one goes first and which one goes second, and then maybe ask staff to come back with, to get feedback or impact or input on what is the next projects. I mean, we're throwing out numbers, but I don't actually know where they are in those pictures. And so, and like even the fact that you brought up, City Manager Bronson, that you brought up that there's not a lot of residents on one of the projects. I wouldn't know that. So maybe have a larger conversation to ensure that there is equity in the dollars that we currently do have to spend without doubling up and redoing staff time and energy and saying start, stop, so that they can just get directed to get going.
I was just going to say, the only reason I had my questions is because it was on here about the conversation about private streets. So as far as that goes, I don't know that it matters to me how we kind of proceed. That was just questions because it's on our agenda. So 17 or 19 being first or second, I think is the question at hand.
Yes.
And the rest is conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm good.
So if I would love for us to get back to that 17 or 19.
And we'll do that. I'll just make one last comment. Is I appreciate staff saying we'll do one after the other. I just get a strong sense that if the money wasn't there at that moment in time, staff would not say proceed with something that's unfunded. So that's just because we have a lot of unfunded projects. You know, it gets talked about all the time too. So though the mentality is right too, if the money's not there, someone is going to have theirs possibly not done, at least through the mechanisms and the funding projections that we have right now before us.
So are you comfortable deciding between 17 and 19
Wait,
and then
hold on,
asking
hold on.
staff?
So let me get back to the question. Okay. I feel like this is a very interesting conversation that we're having right now. I do want to get back to the 17 and 19. I just want to make my comment that I think it's our job here to help staff, direct staff to figure out this funding gap. And that's what we're going to do over the next few years. But right now we're talking about the 17 and 19. So if anybody would like to start that conversation and what you would prefer, I would
love to start that.
Go ahead.
I would love 19 because it's my house, but I don't think that's the best idea, if I'm being honest. So I can't foresee how it would make sense to tear up streets and patch them to get by, even though my kids would really like to go down a smooth 7th Street. I would support doing them in the order of 17, 19.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I don't have a choice. I mean,
Or you don't have a preference?
I don't have a preference. Thank you.
You have a choice.
I have a choice. I don't have a preference. Yeah.
Thank you.
Either
Okay.
way.
And to my left?
17.
Okay.
I'm fine with 17 and then 19.
I am also fine with 17 and then 19. So that's the direction that we are giving to staff. And then as far as, was that it? Sorry, bring me back. Was that all of our comments were given to staff? Oh, and then waiting for 4th Street. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes, I do agree with the delay of 4th Street project into the next fiscal year. I completely agree with that too. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And I don't believe you need a motion for this. You just need a direction to staff, correct?
That's correct. And also just building on the council discussion, staff can bring forward the deliberation on the sequencing of the next projects as part of the draft CIP presentation that we have scheduled for March 9th. We'll take a look at our material and see if we can still hit that meeting or go to March 23rd. But either way, in March, we'll bring that to you and allow the council to really have more deliberation around the sequencing, those projects, where we see the funding opportunities going forward, and we can really dive into that even further as part of the CIP.
I think that's great.
And for clarification on that too, are you including that only 20, 21, 22, or are you including 19 in it as well?
I believe it would just be 2021, 22 because 19 is already designed and ready to go after this one.
So it's only the sequencing of the South Grover project, future projects. Okay, that's what I need to clarify.
Right?
I guess staff would seek clarification from the council on Project 17. Very clear to move that forward first. Our assumption, we'll check with the council, would be 19 would come second based on what's been designed, but I'll check in with the council and see if that is your intended direction as well.
Are any of the other streets designed yet?
No.
The projects? No. But you'll be working on those as you work on 17? Designing?
As far as, no, so they have 17
And
and
19.
19 designed right now. They wouldn't start designing 20 until probably in the middle of 19, of Project 19. Correct? Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
As far as, I love South Grover and I want to give them all the love, but this is what we've sequenced so far. And I do agree with you. We do need to take care of South Grover, but this is what, I don't want to lose any time in between now and the next project.
So maybe something when our CIP comes to us and our budget documents come to us is the action that we did take last year on the reallocation money that was intended to close that gap. Every time that $3 to $4 million comes up, it should note that the council's intention was reallocating this amount of money to help close that gap. Because like I said, that was the assumption I took last year when we had this conversation as far as the sequencing. Now that it's still this amount too, I'm not seeing the commitment that I'd assumed was there. And I'd rather see that commitment somewhere in our documents because apparently that's what it needs to be at this point too. And that would help relieve part of this burden that I'm talking about right now too. Because or else I would like to see 19, 20, 21, 22 all talked about in one. And I understand that's not going to happen based off of this conversation of where people are at. But for that gap but like I said, that was the assumption I had when yes, I was like, yep, look at 19 because that gap is not as huge as it is, but it's still persisting even with the actions we've taken. And I don't see a clear sense of, even from this conversation, that we have a strong plan on how to fill that gap either. So.
I hear you on the concern about the funding gap, absolutely. And I think that that's, if that makes you comfortable for direction to staff to note that back in that last meeting that we had where we allocated those funds to the local, I almost said local roads first. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking slow cog, to those local projects. If there's an asterisk that says we were going to move those funds over to that, I think that would, in our reports for transparency's sake, then I would be comfortable giving that direction to staff. But I feel confident that staff has that direction to move those funds to the K-14 projects.
I think at this point it just needs to be clear in our permanent documents that people would look at too, because like I said, from how this number keeps coming up means that even in the planning side of things too, that's being done, it's not being looked at that way. So yes, it'd be good to have it in that part.
I guess, and maybe you're going to talk, but I have a question for staff. Is there anything that we did that could be actually binding for 2028, or is it just a recommendation?
Yes, it's not binding because it's not in the budget. Our budgets are 2-year budgets. The CIP is 5 years, but we don't budget out for 5 years because it's very hard to predict what you will actually have in funding, and that's why we only do a 2-year. But the CIP currently it has unfunded in that year, no plans for funding being attributed to that major street project, with an asterisk that any available funding is intended for residential streets. What I can't do is tell you what the available funding is going to be in that year because it's just too far out. So in the next budget cycle, it may be something that we're able to look at. I don't know because we're not there yet. So it's not, we don't have like pots of money. What's in the CIP, we don't put it in a savings account for those projects. It's a plan. And then the budget actually allocates the funding. The CIP does not allocate actual money.
So our 2025 conversation expressed a will for a future date, but that would be dependent on the budget at the time and the people on the council in 2028.
Correct.
Yes.
But again, putting in the documents for transparency's sake would be great.
And I think if it has that dollar amount in there, it shows the intent very clearly, because when it's a very silent number, it's saying that the council intended something, then it won't get reflected in stuff when staff does their planning in the future. And I think the problem with it too is that if what we're saying as far as how we're planning, it's like, since it's not in the current budget years, I don't think we should be saying $3 to $4 million is going to be a gap in the future, because right now we can't plan that far financially. So it's one of those areas that's either we're planning to fill the gap or we don't know what that number is going to be.
I think you're correct. It's an estimate.
And so that's where having consistency with our estimates and our planning to address these estimates that's why I'm bringing this up, to have it, and like I said, to have it super clear cut of what we're doing, because right now it seemed like that action didn't make progress in what it was intended for, in the big picture of this, of our commitment to Measure K-14. So that's why I'm hoping to see.
There are a lot of different funding components to transportation projects, and what we're talking about is one piece of that. We'll bring that back to you as part of the draft CIP for further deliberation. I did want to emphasize again that we are increasing our street maintenance program, which is repairing and maintaining K-14 streets, and so that is part of what we are able to do in our CIP. We'll bring those amounts to you, and we can adjust those amounts further as part of the draft CIP conversation.
And just on that too, that yes, we do need to maintain them, but if there's a whole lot that never got done to begin with too, then the maintaining only benefits those who had theirs done. So it's just
Yep. It's two sides of the coin, and certainly we want to maintain our investment, and we also want to eventually repair the remaining streets of the K-14 program, and that is our shared goal that we all have.
I agree.
Okay, so we have directed staff to do project 2295-17 first, followed by 2295-19, and to delay North 4th Street project into the next fiscal year. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for the conversation and the deliberation on the dais. So we'll now move on to council committee reports. I'll call on Councilmember McCrory Driscoll.
As City Manager Bronson mentioned, it's Grover Beach's turn to sit on Central Coast Community Energy, and they have not had a formal meeting yet, but I did go through 2 virtual training meetings last week. And that's all to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Tuggle.
Most of my committees have not met since the last time we were together. However, the chamber did have a mixer at the Hilton Garden Inn in Pismo. So well attended. I want to give a shout out to the chamber staff. The growth I have seen since the first chamber event I attended to today, the energy, the networking. The first time I went, it was just all realtors looking at each other awkwardly. And now there's a robust sampling of professionals in our community. And that's it. Oh, Rise and Shine tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Councilmember Wyrick.
None of my committee assignments met since your last meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I had one meeting on January 28th with the Air Pollution Control District, and first the board held an annual organizational meeting and elected the new officers for 2026, and the new chair is Heather Moreno, County Supervisor, District 5, and Jimmy Paulding, County Supervisor, District 4, will be the vice chair. The board also appointed its representatives and alternatives to the South Central Coast Basin-wide Air Pollution Control Council, which coordinates regional clean air planning with Santa Barbara, Ventura County, and helps secure additional state funding for local air quality programs. From a financial standpoint, APCD is in good shape at the midpoint of the fiscal year. About 44% of its expenditures has been spent, and about 60% of revenues have been received. Staff reported the budget's tracking as expected with no fiscal concerns. The board approved an extension of the lawn and garden electrification program, allocating about $90,000 to help landscapers, public agencies, schools, and nonprofits replace their gas-powered equipment with electrical alternatives. This program has been real successful in the past. Nearly all major funding was used, and it directly reduces neighborhood air pollution as well as noise. And that's just going from gasoline equipment to battery-operated equipment. Several actions were also approved under the Community Air Protection Program, AB 617. These actions continue funding for EV charger installations at low-income multifamily housing, so you can pretty much get a free electrical vehicle charger installed. It covers pretty much all of it. Ongoing air quality improvements in communities like Oceano and Napomo Mesa. All of this work is grant funded and does not impact local general funds. And finally, the board implemented AB 417, which restores the stipends for the board members attending meetings. We did make the decision not to siphon the supervisors, since that's pretty much their job to go to meetings. So it allocated the APC compensation, and it updated the state law requirements. And let's see, overall, ABC is financially stable, continue to expand clean air programs, and staying on track with state requirements while delivering direct benefits to local communities. Thank you very much. That's it.
All right, thank you. And for me, I had SLOCOG, the San Luis Obispo Council of Governments. The main item that we discussed was the local tax measure that was mentioned earlier. And they basically reported that feedback was received from the cities, including guidance to the unincorporated areas, which will be equally distributed. That money, that lump sum of money from, if this were to pass, will be equally distributed between the 5 supervisorial districts. Thank you. We also directed staff to send the final expenditure plans. We adopted and decided, or directed staff to send the final expenditure plans to the cities and counties. So we will be seeing that back, and across the county, we'll be seeing that happen now through March. So they'll be coming back to us to let us know what they updated and everything on that. And that was it for me. So we will now go on to council communications. I'll start with Councilmember McCrory Driscoll.
I was just actually looking at the weather report and thinking about the holiday weekend and just wanting to remind everybody, love the rain, happy to see it, but be safe out there because there's a lot of it coming, I guess. And then I just want, the other thing is I was out a lot over the weekend getting ready for Super Bowl Sunday and then out and about on Super Bowl Sunday watching the game. And even though the game wasn't very exciting, the community was great. Loved being out there with everybody, having great conversations. And if it had been a more exciting game, we probably wouldn't have had as many conversations as we did. But Seahawks won, and so I'm a happy girl.
Councilmember Tuggle.
First, I just wanted to reiterate how much I'm looking forward to our March 31st. That's not even a thing. Not even a thing. Joint meeting with the Planning Commission. I'm hoping it diffuses the sense of us versus them. I recognize that lots of people don't want additional buildings. It's my hope out of this meeting that citizens understand what state law is, what options they actually do have in front of them, and then also what avenues they have to proceed for whatever it is they want to advocate. And I'm hoping that we get people from all perspectives so that we can have a robust conversation. And then somebody mentioned nobody walks over 45 or rides their bikes, and I'm well over 45, and I do that all the time. So we're going to stay young. Stay with me. Run, walk, ride. And then lastly, thank you to staff for putting on and including us in the staff celebration and the volunteer appreciation. Both events were the most warm, fuzzy things I do here. And I would do it on repeat if I could. It was great to connect with staff. Staff members I wouldn't normally get to connect with, and just really good people. And the volunteers, I could have sat there all night just listening to their stories and their love for Grover and their heart of service. So thanks for making that a possibility and for honoring both our volunteers and our staff.
Councilmember Wyrick.
And the volunteers really did like you too. I saw you making your rounds with them all. So yeah, that's one thing I didn't want to mention is on Friday, February 6th, too, I got to attend that with Councilmember Tuggle for a volunteer appreciation event too, and I assume our city manager will say who the volunteer of the year was, so I'll leave it at that. And and I always appreciate too how a lot of them have been doing this year after year after year, helping out with our Dune Run, our summer concerts, all sorts of different things too. So always want to appreciate more volunteers if they come out too, but it was good to appreciate the ones that we do have right now. And then also on Saturday, February 7th, I did go by our Exploration Discovery Center when they had the Cal Poly Lion Dance team there too. There's a lot of kids, and I was impressed that the Exploration Discovery Center even had the red envelopes for them too. That's something for Chinese New Year that's very, a very strong part of the culture and tradition too. So they did a good job on having that, and a lot of families were very happy.
Good. Okay, for mine, no, I'm just kidding. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead. You don't have anything? Oh, I was trying to make a joke. Shoot. Okay. Just for I know, for my council communications. I just want to thank everybody who came out to Coffee with Council. I was there with Mayor Pro Tem, and it's just a great place for conversations, and it's the perfect format for those back and forth conversations. When there's questions, it's or even comments, opinions, whatever it is, we just want to talk about the weather and what beautiful weather, although the rain coming, we can talk about that too. So I love where we can have those avenues and opportunities for the back and forth. Here we're pretty restricted to, it's kind of one way. And so I just appreciate staff being out there with us as well. And yes, to echo the comments about the staff party as well. It was really great to feel included in and talk with those that we usually don't get to talk to. So with that, I will pass it over to City Manager Bronson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few quick items. You all have already talked about the volunteer dinner, and so I appreciate the work of our community services program and putting it on. In particular, Larry Kim, who we talked about quite a bit earlier in the meeting. Our volunteer of the year was actually our own Tammy Johns, who does work for our community services division, but she volunteers on her own time at almost all of our events, along with her son, Zach. And so she's one of our unsung heroes at the city. And so in recognition of that, she was our volunteer of the year, which I think is a very well-suited award for what she does. I also wanted to mention that we are putting on the second annual Police Department Community Academy. This was the first ever program last year. That's an 8-week program for community members to learn about their police department and the wonderful services they provide, the innovation, the technology, the commitment to community service. Officer Smiley is an example of the great department we have. So this is coming up beginning on March 25th. The applications are available on our website, and applications are due by February 23rd. The program is free, so it's a great way to learn about our police department and the way that they serve the community. And lastly, speaking of employees, and he is not here in the audience right now, but I did want to recognize that our Public Works Director, City Engineer Greg Ray, has announced his retirement from the city after nearly 16 years in his role. He was actually the first Public Works Director that we had. We had just a contract city engineer prior to Greg's hiring. So Greg has helped shape literally countless projects and the infrastructure that we have in the city today. So we are going to honor him at a later council meeting closer to his retirement date in May. But for now, we are working to secure an outside recruitment firm to launch a nationwide recruitment for this very important position that we have at the city. Our goal is to have the position open by the end of February, early March, and then proceed from there. So if you know of anybody who would love to work in our amazing city and helping to reshape our city from the ground up, please send them my way. We'd love to talk to any prospective candidates and encourage them to apply for this unique opportunity.
Well, Godspeed in that. I know there's so much institutionalized knowledge with Mr. Ray, and he's been with us for such a long time. And I'm sure I speak for all of us when I say congratulations to Mr. Ray for deciding on that retirement. That's a long time, and that's a legacy that he has here. So we'll honor him later. Councilmember Wyrick, did you do the police academy? Yeah.
It was awesome, and all the participants really, really enjoyed it, and they're super engaged. And the feedback from everyone too was clear each session of how important it was to, and I kind of was just silently watching everyone too. So it was great to see a lot of our police department's work that even I didn't know about too. So good job, you all.
Good, thank you. I'm excited to see that come back. So, okay, we do not have a closed session, but City Attorney Thompson, did you have any reports or anything?
I do not.
All right, well then we are all done, and we will meet next time. Thank you.